Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, counter-spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve.
Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet.
Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Well, we'll have a couple of hours of drama today with episodes of yours truly, Johnny Dollar, Suspense, Escape, Big Town, and Quiet Please, along with the news from 65 years ago, March 22nd, 1959. That's all coming up on this Friday, 22nd day of March, 82nd day of the year, 284 days remaining until we get to 2025. In 1621, the Pilgrims of Plymouth Colony signed a peace treaty with Massawa of the Wampongos. In 1630, Massachusetts Bay Colony outlawed the possession of cards, dice, and gaming tables. Ooh. In North Carolina in 1871, William Woods Holden became the first governor of a state to be removed from office by impeachment. We haven't removed enough, including a lot of judges, but I'm not going to get into that. In 1933, President Roosevelt signed into law a bill legalizing the sale of beer and wine as we were coming out of the attempt to clamp down on all of that evil liquor. In 1941, Washington's Grand Coulee Dam began to generate electricity. 1960, Arthur Leonard Skowrow and Charles Towns received the first patent for a laser. In 1963, the first Beatles album, Please Please Me, released in the UK. A fire at the Browns Ferry nuclear reactor in Decatur, Alabama in 1975 caused dangerous lowering of cooling water levels. In 1993, the Intel Corporation, and I have to say something, and I know some of you hate it when I get political. We talk about clean energy. Quite frankly, there have been so very few problems with nuclear reactors that it seems it would be relatively clean, but that's just me. In 1993, Intel shipped the first batch of Pentium chips, the 8586s, featuring a whopping, blazing 60 megahertz clock speed, 100 megabips, and a 64-bit data path. Of course, our computers these days are faster than that by magnitudes of 40 or 50. In 1997, the comet Hale-Bopp had its closest approach to Earth. And in 2004, Ahmed Yassin, co-founder and leader of the Palestinian Sunni Islamist militant group Hamas, and bodyguards are killed in the Gaza Strip when hit by Israeli Air Force AH-64 Apache-fired Hellfire missiles.
Hamas is an organization that commits terrorist acts and sponsors terrorist acts. The Sheikh was someone who was involved in these in this kind of terrorism.
20 years ago today, that happened. And still, 20 years later, Hamas is committing terrorist acts in and around Israel and on the Gaza Strip. And I wish that the people of Gaza could rise up, but all these people who want to say Palestine bad, Israel bad. I'm not going to say Palestine's bad. I'm not going to say Israel's bad. You know who's bad? Hamas, the terrorists. We need to do something about terrorism, but there's very little that can be done. That was White House Press Secretary Scott McClellan with President Bush's response to the killing. Passing away on this date in history, film producer Mike Todd, the man who wrote Teen Angel and sang Teen Angel, Mark Denning. Woody Woodpecker cartoonist Walter Lands passing away on this date. William Hanna of the Hanna-Barbera Studios. Joe Blanchard, who was a football player, a wrestler, a promoter, and the father of Tully Blanchard, who in his 60s is still active as a manager in wrestling. And Tully's daughter, the granddaughter of Joe Blanchard, is wrestling today. So there you go. And also passing away on this date, former Senator Herman Talmadge, an old-fashioned Southern populist who built a school as governors of Georgia and then called for stopping desegregation by closing them. He died on this date in 2002 at his Hampton, Georgia home. He was at the age of 88. One of his best-known exchanges was what you're going to hear here with John Ehrlichman, a top Nixon aide.
Remember when we were in law school, we studied a famous principle of law that came from England and also is well known in this country, that no matter how humble a man's cottage is, that even the King of England can't enter without his consent.
I'm afraid that's been considerably eroded over the years, hasn't it?
Down in my country, we still think it's a pretty legitimate principle of law.
Ehrlichman defending on grounds of national security his decision to order a break-in to obtain the psychiatric records of Daniel Ellsberg, who had said he gave the New York Times the secret Pentagon Papers on the government's conduct of the Vietnam War. You know, from what Talmadge said there, it gives you an idea of how far the Democrat Party has moved from their principles of the time, that people still had the right to secure their own property. And these days, they don't want to secure a border. Go figure. I know, I'm getting too political. I'll shut up now. Let's move on to people who were born on this date, and they include Chico Marx, very funny man, born on this date. Western novel author Louis L'Amour, born on this date, as was actor Carl Malden. Commandant Klink in Hogan's Heroes, Werner Klempner, born on this date as well. Ross Martin, another fine actor. French mime Marcel Marceau. And no, I'm not going to do that joke. His final words were, no, I'm not doing that joke. And Stephen Sondheim, composer-lyricist. Televangelist Pat Robertson, who passed away last year at the age of 93. Pat Robertson's people helped a lot when we built College Station years ago. They supplied us with tapes and programming for some of our Sundays, and it was a delight that they would do that for a very, very small college station. Pat Robertson dying last year, as I said, and the man who sang about so much of the New World in the Morning and so much great music, Roger Whittaker. The Last Farewell, my favorite song of his. For you are beautiful, and I shall love you dearly, more dearly than the spoken word can tell. Roger Whittaker, passing away last year at the age of 87. He is truly missed. Those some of the people born on this date in history.
Hi, this is Jeff Foxworthy. It is now time for the birthday announcements. The following people are now officially older than dirt.
William Shatner, Captain Kirk, is 93 years old today. Go back and, if you have access to YouTube, look, he's recorded a lot of music. And he did a whole album called The Transformed Man. And some of that music was just ultra campy in Captain Kirk style, the way he played Kirk. But Shatner recorded an album with, and I'm trying to remember who it was with, Ben Folds of the Ben Folds 5, and there was a wonderful song on there called It Hasn't Happened Yet. If you can find that, William Shatner's It Hasn't Happened Yet, I should dig it out and try it. Well, I can't do that. I could, but I'm not going to. But Shatner, 93 years old today. Sammy Davis Jr.'s ex-wife, Mae Britt, 90 years old today. Wolf Blitzer of CNN is 76. Composer Andrew Lloyd Webber. Some wonderful music, 76 years old today. Sports commentator Bob Costas, 72. From The Wiz, Stephanie Mills is 67. From Full Metal Jacket, Matthew Modine is 65. From Key and Peele, Keegan-Michael Key is 53. Some of their stuff is not particularly clean, but some of it's hilarious. It's a hoot. Let's see, Reese Witherspoon, 48 today, and a wonderful musician. George Benson turns 81. In this clip, he talks about how he got started.
Somebody heard me while I sang at a street dance when I was 5 or 6 years old. I can't remember exactly. And from that day on, I was known as Little Georgie Benson, the singer. Then I learned to play the ukulele and became known as Little Georgie Benson, the ukulele player and singer, and then guitar at 9. And this man heard about me, playing. People had been telling him, oh, you got to hear this young kid. You got to hear him. So one day he invited me up to his place. I was only like a 9 or 10-year-old kid, so I had to get permission from my mother to walk these 10 blocks to this place. So she told me I could go. He worked as a chef in a place that made big corned beef sandwiches, which is the first time I ever heard of corned beef. But he made me a corned beef sandwich, and he talked to me and asked me where I lived and told me he'd be down to my house, and he talked my mother into letting him take me to New York.
And thus began the career of George Benson, a wonderful singer, wonderful guitar player. If you've never heard Breezin', find that. George Benson, 81 years old today. We're talking about corned beef. We're recording this show on Friday, the 15th of March. And I just had corned beef today at our Ely Senior Center here in beautiful Ely, Nevada. And it was a hoot. And I'm probably tomorrow night going to go to a St. Patrick's Day party put together by our local Catholic church. And I'm not Catholic. But when it comes to food, I don't discriminate. I plan on going to have some corned beef. So there you go. Those some of the people, I get distracted talking about corned beef. Those some of the people who celebrate the 22nd day of March as their birthday. If this is your birthday.
Hi, we're the 4 freshmen, and we just want to say happy birthday to you.
Shouldn't prattle on about irrelevant stuff because we got a news segment to do here in just a few minutes, too. On this Friday, we're going to hear from Bob Bailey and yours truly, Johnny Dollar, coming up next from 65 years ago, Sunday, March 22nd, 1959. We're also going to have the news from that day and then an episode of Suspense from that same date. That's all coming up next here on this Friday Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox.
Modern warfare is no respecter of people or places. Today, farms are right on the front line with the cities. Many of the same emergency items that will help take care of your family will also keep your farm producing. Stored fuels for farm equipment, emergency power, spare parts for farm machinery. Arrange for extra storage space for grains, eggs, dairy products, and other perishables. Everything you can produce will be needed. The nation's survival under attack will depend on how well you prepare now.
Those of you who follow us on Facebook, we told you that we had uncovered some friends of ours. They run a YouTube channel called Conrad 640 1240, and someone Doom Tape 1981. They uncovered from the National Archives a whole bunch of civil defense recordings, and there's stuff that I'm not going to do here. But some of these civil defense recordings include the tapes that they were that radio stations were to run in case of a national emergency, in case the bomb was dropped and there was a national alert. The emergency broadcast system and how stations would stay informed and stay hooked up with the national link. And some of that, I find some of that offensive because you have to have the ability to get in locally, but that's beside the point. The point is they found that, and then they found this reel of civil defense mobilization spots, and it's all national, it's all government produced, so it's public domain, so there's no issue about this. This stuff was thought to have been used primarily in the 1950s, but it was used as late as I understand in the 1980s. So, I think they're good pieces of time. Have any of you ever heard these particular spots before? I hadn't. And I think it's nice to have these capsules in time, because a lot of this stuff is stuff that makes sense to be prepared for today. Not just for a case of a national emergency, but in case of you have a reason, like those poor folks in Florida and along the Gulf Coast where you have to deal with hurricanes all the time and tornadoes in the Midwest. You got to have food to be prepared and, shelter and all that. This stuff's important today. Okay, shut up, Wyatt. You're editorializing. People don't like that. Sorry. But, it's good. You got to be prepared. Now we're going to go back 65 years to Sunday, March 22nd, 1959, and another episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey. This is a show that came from TedRadioMemories.com. And Ted has so many of these great old shows in very good quality. This episode from 65 years ago is entitled The Lake Mead Mystery Matter. And y'all know how much Johnny likes to fish. So going to Lake Mead, today it's more Lake Mud than Mead because of the drought here in the West. But still, a lot of people love to fish there.
From Hollywood, it's time now for Johnny Dollar.
Pat McCracken, Johnny, at Universal Adjustment Bureau.
Greetings, Master.
No, don't give me that. Johnny, I believe you spent a couple of weekends down in Sarasota, Florida early this month.
Pat, you know darn well I did.
Have a chance to get in some fishing?
You know darn well I didn't. That's why I've been sitting here dreaming about those lunker bass at the Lake Mojave Resort out in Arizona.
Oh, what's the matter with Lake Mead?
Huh?
You know, the huge man-made lake that's backed up by Hoover Dam?
Yeah, I know.
A few miles this side of Las Vegas, Nevada. A lot of big ones in that water, I understand.
Okay, Pat, you got me all excited. Now, what's it all about?
I told you, fishing.
Yeah, and?
That's all. Except...
Yeah? Except what?
Slight case of murder.
Bob Bailey in the exciting adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account. America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. And now, Act One of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Universal Adjustment Bureau, Home Office, Hartford, Connecticut. Following is an account of expenses incurred during my investigation of the Lake Mead Mystery Matter.
All right, now, Johnny, your contact will be Mr. Roscoe Trimmer. He's head of the local office of Greater Southwest Insurance and Liability right there in Las Vegas.
You said murder. Can you give me any details?
No, you'll have to get everything from Trimmer. All I know is there's a $20,000 policy involved and double indemnity. So the sooner you get out there, the better.
Okay, Pat, I'll grab the first plane I can. Expense account item 1, $2 even for a fast taxi to the airport. Item 2, $6.70 plane fare to New York. Item 3, $145.05, another plane ticket. And I barely made the 12 o'clock noon mainliner, which promptly took off and headed west to Las Vegas, Nevada. It was 9:45 p.m. Pacific time when we started the long glide down from a starlit sky to the landing strip at McCarran Field in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'll never cease to marvel at the nighttime view from the air of that fabulous city of chance. Sitting alone out there in the middle of the vast Mojave Desert, the sky filling glow from its millions of lights, it had put a rainbow to shame. Oasis in the desert. Yeah, and very beautiful. I knew that Roscoe Trimmer's office would be closed this time of night, so I looked for a place to rest my weary head. Item 4, $1.50 for a cab into the Flamingo. And I just happened to remember that the Flamingo has an excellent casino. Now, I'm really not a gambling man in the usual sense of the word, but who can resist the lure of the dice and roulette tables, the blackjack, even the slot machines in a setting like this? Sure, the house always wins, and the sucker who forks out his hard-earned money doesn't stand a chance. But you know something? After a few hours of play, I came out so far ahead that I won't even bother to list my food and hotel room on this expense account. I really cleaned up. How much? Well, if I told you, you'd probably want me to absorb the whole thing, so I won't. Then, early the next morning, I met Roscoe Trimmer at the office of Greater Southwest Insurance and Liability.
Dollar, I'm glad you could make it. I don't like this one at all. Howard.
Hiya, Rosk.
Sit down, will you?
Yeah,
but
sure.
Not for long.
Huh?
I've arranged a drive-it-yourself car for you. And the sooner you can get over to Lake Mead, the better.
Well, just where, Roscoe? That's a pretty big lake.
Overton. A little town 50, 60 miles north and east of here. At the upper end of the lake.
So what's happened up there?
Johnny, a client of mine, Thomas Mayfield Thomas, came out here from Chicago last year. Retired here. I don't know much about him except that our Chicago office sent me his file when he came and asked me to look out for him.
Uh-huh. Go on.
About a week ago, Thomas and a friend went fishing together out of Overton Landing. They went out with Hob Fulton on his charter boat. Incidentally, if you ask me, Hob's the best guide on the whole lake.
Good, I'll remember that.
Only you're here on a case, remember?
Oh, sure. But go on.
Well, the fishing must have been pretty good, because they stayed on at the Overton Motel. Then the next morning, they went down to the landing, rented a little traveler and a 10-horse Johnson, and went out fishing on their own.
Rosk, I may try that very thing myself.
But about the middle of the afternoon, a big east wind came up. You know what that means?
I know that when a big Easter hits one of those desert lakes, there's only one thing you do. Get off it quick.
Well, they didn't, Johnny. At least not quick enough. The following morning, when the blow had died down, Hob Fulton went out to look for him.
And?
He found the boat, all right. Beached on a point down near Goat Island. And Mr. Thomas's friend.
What about Thomas?
His friend says that Thomas went overboard when the squall hit him.
Well, it's certainly possible.
Yes, it is. Possible.
But chomp on a lake like that can build up waves 8 and 10 feet high, enough to throw a man off any kind of a boat.
Yes, I know.
But you don't think that's the way it happened?
I didn't say that, Johnny. It's just that, well...
Okay, Rosk. What was his fishing pal's name?
Charlie Wentworth. Does that mean anything to you?
No.
Well, I'm afraid I don't know very much about him either. Except that he, too, came here from Chicago. Arrived in town about 2 weeks ago.
I take it that's where he knew Thomas, back in Chicago.
Yeah, apparently.
Well, what about him? What does this Charlie Wentworth do?
Apparently nothing. But hang around the gambling joints. Oh, he does a little dealing and shilling for some of them now and then. There's talk he's been making illegal book on the races, though nobody's pinned it on him.
So, in your book, he's an undesirable character.
That's right.
But is that reason to suspect he took Mr. Thomas out on that lake and murdered him?
Now, Johnny, there's been a lot of worry around this town about some of the people who've come out here recently from Chicago. You know, ever since those investigations began back east.
So what? Does that mean everybody who comes from there is a killer?
No, of course not. But a man who doesn't really work for a living, you know, just spends all his time around the gambling tables, has a port.
Thomas was retired. Maybe Charlie Wentworth is too.
Oh, Johnny.
Besides, who knows? Maybe Thomas will show up. Maybe he swam to shore and is plotting his way back through the desert.
Oh, now you know the odds against a city man surviving out there.
Well, does anybody really look for him?
Everybody. The police, the National Park boys, everybody. Not only in boats, on foot, but they even use planes and a helicopter. They found no trace.
Well, that still doesn't prove anything. Tell me this. Are the police holding Charlie Wentworth?
No, they're not.
Which means they don't feel they have any reason to. But you still think I ought to investigate?
Yes, I do.
Roscoe? So do I.
And now, Act Two of yours truly, Johnny Dollar and the Lake Mead Mystery Matter.
Neither the police nor anybody else in Las Vegas seemed to think Thomas was murdered out on Lake Mead. But what Roscoe Trimmer told me made me suspicious, of Thomas's fishing pal, a man named Charlie Wentworth. Expense account item 5640. I telephoned to my old friend Ken Bugby, reporter on the Chicago Citizen News.
Thomas?
Yeah, that's right, Ken. What can you tell me about him?
Well, not everybody knew it, Johnny, but he was a mouthpiece for the old Moretti mob. That was some years ago.
Oh?
When they started the big cleanup, well, either Thomas couldn't or just plain wouldn't get him off the hook. Let them all go to jail. Then he settled down, retired in his home out in Elmhurst.
Well, he's certainly not there now, Ken.
No, about a year ago, he suddenly sold his place, packed up, and moved out west somewhere.
Why? Do you know?
Change of climate, I guess. What about him, Johnny?
Ever hear of Charlie Wentworth?
You kidding. He was one of Moretti's trigger men. Casual Charlie, they called him.
You, know where he is now?
Oh, they sent him up to Joliet prison along with the rest of the mob. Those boys will be in the clink the rest of their natural... Now, wait a minute.
Yeah?
Casual Charlie and Snooty Wilson were released. Yeah, and... Hey, that was just about the same time that Thomas moved away from here. If that means anything.
Baby, I got a hunch it means everything.
Oh? Like what, Johnny?
Thanks a lot, Ken. Next stop was the public library, the old newspaper files. Getting some info on the almost forgotten Moretti mob was a lead pipe cinch, especially about the time when the gang was broken up. And apparently when Lawyer Thomas saw the jig was up for his boys, having made his pile, and to keep himself out of trouble, he left them flat. He'd let them get sent to the pen without raising a finger in their defense. So don't tell me that a mobster wouldn't want to get even with the guy who'd let him down. Sure, Charlie had killed Thomas. I was sure of it without even seeing him. But to prove it, without the corpus delicti, I spent item 6, $32 even on some equipment at a sporting goods store. Then I drove north on Highway 91 to the quiet little town of Overton. There I learned that for once, Hob Fulton, the fishing guide, had a free day on his hands, that he was down at the lake some 12 miles east of the town. I met him at the dock, and within a few minutes, we were on board his Higgins runabout and heading south. Lake Mead is a tremendous thing, something like a 550-mile shoreline, the biggest man-made body of water in the world, I believe. Just thinking about the record-breaking largemouth bass that have come out of that lake fairly made my mouth water. I carefully checked out the equipment I'd brought along.
So you spent a lot of good money renting that stuff from Shelby's Sporting Goods down in Vegas, huh?
Yep.
Well, where's the spear?
Hob, I don't think I'm going to need a spear.
I don't think you're going to need any of that stuff. You ask me, Dollar, if you want to catch fish, borrow one of those rigs I brought along.
Hob, I just want you to take me to the same spot you took Mr. Thomas and Charlie Winter.
Too bad about that, Mr. Thomas. I got him a lot of nice bass, though. You know, fishing only the real deep holes. That's where they are this time of year.
That's what I figured.
If only they'd had sense enough to come back in that next day when the wind started to blow.
Did they seem to get along all right, Hob?
I told the police about that, Mr. Dollar, but I guess it didn't mean anything.
Told them about what?
Well, you asked me. Mr. Thomas wasn't any too happy fishing with Charlie Wentworth. But Charlie kept saying, let bygones be bygones, and let's enjoy the fishing, so...
When you found Charlie in the boat the next morning, was there tackle still in it?
Have you ever seen this lake when there's a big blow from the east, Mr. Dollar?
I've seen Lake Mojave when it's been that way, but you haven't answered my question.
No, sir. Their tackle boxes got thrown overboard along with everything else. Even that big one of Charlie's. Dollar, he had enough stuff in that thing to sink the Queen Mary.
He did, huh? Like what, Hob?
Well, I didn't poke around in it. When I heisted it on board. Oh, look, there's the glory hole. First place to stop for him. So if that's what you want, that's where we'll start.
How deep is it?
Oh, I'd say about a 3 1/2.
A 3 1/2?
Well, you know how high a fair-sized tree is. Glory hole's about a 3 1/2.
Oh, I see.
But, Johnny, if you're going to use that rig you brought along...
I'll just pull up to the same spot you showed them where to fish. By the end of 2 hours, I'd tried at least half a dozen of the holes where Hob had taken Thomas and Charlie. No luck. Then we went 4 or 5 miles further down the lake and pulled up just below Goat Island, just below the big rock slide.
Deepest hole in this part of the lake, Dollar. Must be near to 5 trees. A lot of ledges down there on the sides of it, so you better go kind of easy.
I covered every inch of that hole, and with the aid of a powerful waterproof headlamp I brought along. Then finally I came back up to the surface. That's right, I said came back up to the surface.
Here, Johnny, let me give you a hand back in the boat.
No, thanks. I'll rest you in the water for a minute. That's a pretty deep hole.
Yeah, but how you ever expect to catch bass in that skin diving rig without even a spear?
Hand me a long rope, Hob. I found it down there.
Huh?
Yeah, on a ledge about 50 feet down, lashed onto that heavy tackle box you were talking about. That's what made it sink.
Hey, what are you talking about, Johnny?
The body of Thomas.
What?
Yeah, and there's a bullet hole right between the eyes.
And now, Act 3 of yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
I took the body of Thomas back to headquarters in Las Vegas and hung around long enough to hear Dr. Richard Fallon say the bullet hole was definitely made by a .38 and at close range. To hear Police Captain Willis say there'd be no action taken until the bullet could be removed for study. but I knew he'd change his mind when he had time to think about it. So I left headquarters and started making the rounds of the gambling casinos. Luck was with me. At the second place I stopped, one of the public joints on Fremont Street.
Apple winner, everyone. That's 34, red and even.
Well,
34 it is.
Have you seen him around here today?
Yeah, that's Charlie Wentworth. They just come in the door, mister.
Thanks.
All right, ladies and gentlemen.
Excuse me, please.
Make your bets for the
Pardon me, will you? May I get through here, please? Thank you. Excuse me. Charlie? Charlie Wentworth?
Yeah, Buster?
Johnny Dollar, insurance investigator. Here's my credentials.
Oh, yeah. I guess you want to talk about my pal, Tommy Thomas, got drowned over in Lake Mead last week. Is that it?
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, Buster, that was an awful thing, him going like that. He was an old buddy of mine.
Was he?
Sure was. An old buddy. Say, why don't we talk over in my room, huh? Too much noise around here. Okay by you?
Sure, why not?
Are you kidding?
I'm not kidding.
No. Listen, Dollar, I haven't packed a rod since the old days of the Moretti mob back in Chi.
I'll bet.
That's a fact. It's the truth. You think I want to get in trouble again? Well, you're wrong, see?
Maybe.
Look, I did my stretch, and it learned me a lesson. I'm all through with that kind of stuff. I'm all through with it.
Oh, sure.
It's a fact. It's the truth. I'm strictly legit now. You understand?
What about making book around town without a license?
Who said that?
Well?
You can't prove it. You or nobody else. And what's that got to do with Tommy Thomas and the poor guy getting drowned? Tell me that, huh? What is this, Dollar, anyhow?
You really hated his guts, didn't you?
Well, sure, wouldn't you if... Well...
Sure. Because when the chips were down, he didn't give you a hand. He let you and the rest of the mob take the rap. Kept his own skirts clean at your expense.
Listen, what are you trying to do? Get me excited? Say something I shouldn't say? I don't mean...
Keep talking, Charlie.
Sure I hated him. I could have killed him. First, that is. Only at first. Anybody would have felt that way. But, after a few years in the clink, you learn better. What good's it do you? Those things don't matter. You've learned your lesson. I know I did.
Oh, you became a paragon of virtue, I suppose.
I don't know what you're talking about, but that's all over. You hear me? When I just happened to find him living here in Vegas, that was all over. Let bygones be bygones. I mean it. We was pals.
Charlie, there's about as much truth in that.
That's a fact. That's the truth.
Then why did you kill him?
That's a lie. You can't prove it.
That's where you're wrong.
Huh?
I have absolute proof.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I found it on his body.
His body?
I fished it out of Lake Mead this morning.
Now, listen.
You had Hob Fulton show you all the deepest holes when you went out fishing with him. Then the next day, you took Thomas out there alone. You killed him, tied that weighted tackle box to his body, and let him sink down in the deepest hole of all, down below the rock slide.
That windstorm.
Yeah. Gave you the greatest excuse in the world for coming back alone, didn't it? You couldn't have had it better if you'd planned that storm yourself. But it didn't excuse the bullet hole in Tommy Thomas's head from your gun.
From my gun?
Yeah. No longer packing a rod, huh?
Dollar, maybe I maybe I forgot about this one.
Trigger man, huh? You're a lousy shot. And pretty slow draw, thank heaven. You know something? Now I think I have got proof. Yeah, this gun of yours. Down at headquarters, the ballistics team took less than an hour. Yep. The bullet they'd found in Thomas's body came from the same gun Charlie had tried to kill me with. So it's back to prison for him for a long, long time. Oh, and the company will not have to pay double indemnity for accidental death. Expense account total, including a couple of days of excellent fishing with Hob Fulton and the trip back to Hartford, $196.45. Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, originates in Hollywood and is written, produced, and directed by Jack Johnstone. Heard in our cast were Larry Dobkin, Bartlett Robinson, Frank Nelson, Harry Bartell, and Gil Stratton Jr. Be sure to join us next week, same time and station, for another exciting story of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is Dan Coverly speaking.
An Armed Forces Radio Network recording of the CBS program Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, from Sunday, March 22nd, 1959, 65 years ago today. And in just a moment here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we'll take a look at the news items of that date 65 years ago.
You can protect yourself from radioactive fallout after an enemy attack. Our tests have shown that an underground shelter covered by 3 feet of earth offers the best protection. A basement shelter could be made safe by closing off windows, exterior entrances, and banking exposed walls. In homes without basements, first floor areas with the least exposure, such as bathroom, utility room, or hallway, should be selected. Be prepared. Start building your home shelter today.
All right, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, you just heard an episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey. Up next, we'll have an episode of Suspense on that same Sunday, March 22nd, 1959. But right now, let's take a look at the headlines from the newspapers of that Sunday, 65 years ago. A German freighter and a Spanish cargo ship collided in the foggy English Channel. A French rescue tug, which reached the scene early Monday, said the German vessel, the Karl Grammersfort, was rapidly taking on water when it was in danger of sinking. The German freighter badly damaged. Senator Alan J. Ellender leveled a scathing attack against President Eisenhower and his foreign aid program. He said the program was money thrown to the four winds, and the president's arguments for it were irresponsible. The Louisiana Democrat, a member of the Senate Appropriations Committee, a long-standing critic of foreign aid, but has seldom condemned it in such sweeping terms. He said the money would be better spent at home for defense rather than out-and-out mercenaries and paper armies abroad. However, a plea for support from the aid program came from AFL-CIO President George Meany. Meany said the $3.9 billion program was by no means excessive. The AFL-CIO chief said letters to every House and Senate member asking for support for the president's request. Christians from across the world Sunday began the observance of the Easter week Passions by following the path which Jesus took into Jerusalem in the last days of his life. Worshippers of all ages gathered at Bethpage and carrying palm branches walked mournfully to the Church of St. Anne along the road to which Jesus had traveled. Poet Robert Frost, only a few days from his 85th birthday, thinks the human race cannot be bombed from extinction. Like flies and bedbugs, he said, we are inexterminable. Frost, who once said it was his conviction that the world will never end, was asked on a recorded NBC radio TV interview, Meet the Press, if he still feels that way in view of new missile developments. He said that when people talk about being wiped out by a big enough bomb, I like to say I think we are inexterminable, like flies and bedbugs. 2,000 screaming prisoners rioted in Havana's Principe prison Saturday night and early Sunday, setting fires throughout the prison in an outbreak officials charged was organized by war criminals. 2 huge meteors zoomed low over the southern part of North Island in the New Zealand group Sunday. When one plunged into the sea, the shock wave rocked buildings 90 miles away. No damage was reported. Carter Observatory in Wellington, New Zealand, reported the first of the fireballs sighted moving south to north early Sunday morning. It disappeared over the horizon. An administration survey demonstrates that the Soviet Union and its satellites have sharply intensified their economic offensive in the world's underdeveloped areas. During 1958, the survey shows the Soviet bloc signed aid agreements with free world nations totaling about $1 billion, roughly $700 million more than in 1957. President Eisenhower and British Prime Minister Harold Macmillan ended their Camp David strategy session on Sunday with a review of the Soviet Union's economic threats and Middle East tensions. Buddhist monks rushed to join Tibetan tribesmen in the spreading anti-communist revolt as word spread that the Chinese Reds had bombed the sacred city of Lhasa in India. There was no confirmation of the bombing. Travelers reaching India from Tibet reported that flames were seen shooting from monasteries near Lhasa, 2 of the largest in Tibet. Congressmen generally gave bipartisan applause Sunday to the agreement of President Eisenhower and British Prime Minister Macmillan to meet the Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev in a summer summit conference. One other item that I want to pass along to you, and this is one of those items that we kind of call a kicker in the business. From Milwaukee, a schoolteacher skeptical when 2 young pupils arrived in class clutching $91 in currency. $91 in cash, what they said came flying through the air. Well, the teacher told police, who traced the bills to the nearby James Torrent home, arriving just as Mr. and Mrs. Torrent were finishing a room-by-room search for the missing money. Now, the disappearance traced to 19-month-old James Torrent Jr. Seems little Jimmy watched his sister, 8-year-old Sandra, open her mother's purse and take out a dime. Well, when she left, Jimmy reopened the purse, took out $150 in currency and a $59 check, shoved the bills and the check one at a time through the open slot of an upstairs bedroom window. I have personal experience with that happening with a youngster, not cash. One day I came home from work and found, a computer, several cell phones, every bit of electronics that the youngster could pick up and shove through a window. This youngster was less than 2, but they do that. I don't know why. Those are some of the news stories from Sunday, March 22nd, 1959. Now, on your radio, Suspense, script by Mark Brady, and we'll hear that when Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox continues following these messages.
When buying your emergency food and water supply, choose foods that provide a well-balanced diet. For instance, canned soups, fruits, vegetables, fruit juices, packaged cereals, and dried foods are excellent for storing. Raisins and chocolate are good energy-building foods and take up little storage space. Avoid storing salty foods because they will only add to the problem of drinking water. Remember, in case of attack, your emergency food and water supply may have to last your family 2 weeks.
Oh, and you want to ask if the youngster was blistered? Yeah, they were blistered. The Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we're going back 65 years. We just heard the start of the show, yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey from 65 years ago. We just heard headlines from 65 years ago. Now, an episode of Suspense from 65 years ago, Sunday, March 22nd, 1959. The story entitled Script by Mark Brady.
Suspense. And the producer of radio's outstanding theater of thrills, the master of mystery and adventure, William N. Robeson.
One of the saddest phrases uttered by man is, "I didn't know it was loaded." The presumed empty gun is the cause of countless tragedies. But our story concerns a tragedy which resulted from a gun that was presumed to be loaded. It concerns, too, that most desirable and dangerous of all phenomena, a beautiful woman. Listen then as Miss Marie Winsor stars in Script by Mark Brady, which begins in just a moment.
Here's Frankie Lane. I never feel like singing with a bad cold, so I take wonderful 4-way cold tablets to relieve my cold misery fast.
Right. Tests of 4 leading cold tablets proved 4-way fastest acting of all. Amazing 4-way starts in minutes to relieve aches, pains, headache, reduce fever, calm upset stomach, also overcomes irregularity.
So when you catch cold, take my advice. Take 4-way cold tablets. It's the fast way to relieve those nasty cold miseries and feel better quickly.
4-way, 29 and 59 cents.
Here's a word about another fine product of Grove Laboratories. Does dandruff dull your hair, leave scalp itchy? Get Fitch Dandruff Remover Shampoo and get rid of unsightly dandruff in 3 minutes. 3 minutes with Fitch regularly is guaranteed to keep embarrassing dandruff away forever. Apply Fitch before wetting hair. Rub in 1 minute. Add water. Lather 1 minute. Rinse 1 minute. Every trace of dandruff goes down the drain. 3 minutes with Fitch, unsightly dandruff's gone. Fitch can also leave your hair up to 35% brighter. Fitch Dandruff Remover Shampoo.
And now, script by Mark Brady, starring Miss Marie Winsor. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Within the next few minutes, I will commit murder. Cold, premeditated murder. Why? Well, since I'm a writer of murder mysteries, perhaps the simplest way to explain is to dramatize my story. Hence this script, my last, to be delivered to the studio after my arrest. Cast of characters: Mark Brady, a writer in his early 30s. College graduate, easygoing, intelligent. Mary Brady, his wife, beautiful, with a bright, unused brain. Jason Roberts, his best friend, an intellectual snob. The scene, the Brady's comfortable book-lined apartment. The time, a few months ago.
But, Mark, couldn't you get one of the girls from the office?
Why all the fuss about even numbers?
Well, every time Jason comes for dinner, he comes alone. I don't like it.
Oh? I should think you'd welcome the undivided attention of 2 adoring men.
It makes me uneasy.
Well, then, why don't we invite Jane Stanley?
The lady writer?
Yes, with the horn-rimmed glasses, flat shoes, and an abiding belief in Zen Buddhism. She shouldn't give you much competition.
I'm not worried about competition. Jason thinks I have a mind, even if you don't.
Oh, he does he? Well, that's par for old Jason. He always did like my taste in women.
He says I'm unlike any woman you ever went with.
That's right. You're also the only woman I ever married.
Don't muss my hair, you beast. You're such an animal.
And aren't you glad?
I suppose so. Only, somehow, sometimes I don't feel married to you.
What?
Why, you're so self-sufficient. You don't need me. You don't need anyone.
Oh, yes, I do. I need you very much. Why, who'd take care of me? Send out my laundry, defrost my dinner.
You're not being serious.
Oh, but I am.
You can hire someone to do all that.
As beautiful as you, I couldn't afford it.
Mark, did it ever once occur to you that I have ideas, that I have thoughts, that I'm interested in things?
Of course. Haven't I heard you and Jason ramble on far into the night about Freud, Jung, Marx, Engels, and the plight of the Navajo Indians?
Jason understands me. He likes the way my mind works.
Oh?
But he ought to have a girlfriend of his own. Now, will you please try to get him someone for tonight?
From the way you talk about old Jason, I think I'm the guy who needs a girlfriend. We were so civilized, we budding intellectuals, so sophisticated, so sure of ourselves. We shared each other. If Mary's ballet class or her mosaics or her lute lessons conflicted with the opening of an art exhibit, Jason and I would gaily go off together to view the paintings. If something kept me from attending an opera or a ballet, Mary never missed it. There was always Jason to escort her. But last summer, my work began to pile up. And every time there was an attraction at the Greek Theater or an especially interesting concert at the Hollywood Bowl, I was stuck with a script to finish. I was really grateful for Jason then. He relieved me of my guilt about not entertaining my beautiful wife. Until one night, I discovered that it was he who owed me a debt of gratitude.
Why, hello, darling. You still up?
Apparently. Have you any idea what time it is?
No, not the slightest.
It's nearly 2:30, and why are you in your bare feet?
Oh, Mark, we had such a silly, wonderful time.
Suppose you tell me about it.
Well, the concert turned out to be never-ending dull, and those seats in the bowl are so hard. Finally, Jason suggested we take a ride down to the beach.
Is that why sand is dripping from your skirt?
Is it? Oh, well, you see, I've been swimming.
Swimming? In what?
In the ocean.
I mean, what did you swim in? What did you wear?
Nothing, Mark. I just went swimming in the moonlight.
I see. Do you realize that it's 3.5 hours since that concert ended? Do you realize I've been going nearly crazy with worry that I was just about to start calling the police and the hospitals when you float in off Cloud 8 and calmly announced that you've been swimming in the nude?
I didn't say I'd been swimming in the nude. I said I'd been swimming in the moonlight. Mark, stop looking at me that way.
What way?
Like I was some broad.
Well, aren't you?
No.
Apparently Jason thinks so.
It's late, Mark, and I'm tired and suddenly very cold. Now, please let me by. I want to take a hot shower.
It was as much my fault as it was hers. It wouldn't have happened if I hadn't thrown them together. So after that, I paid more attention to my homework, and the midnight swim was forgotten by tacit agreement. And by tacit agreement, we saw less and less of Jason. Mary satisfied my craving for beauty, and for the rest, I had my work. I got very busy on a new show I dreamed up based upon police files. I wish now I'd never thought of the idea. Part of the job was to ride the prowl cars for background color. And the second night out, we were cruising around the twisting streets in the Hollywood Hills. This looks like El Dorado Drive.
Yeah, that's right, Mr. Brady.
A friend of mine lives along in here, just around this bend.
That his house we're coming to?
Yeah, that's it.
Well, you better tell him to park his car closer to the curb or I'll leave him a ticket.
Yeah, only that isn't his car. It was Mary's car, cozily parked in front of Jason's house. Sure, why not? She knew I'd be gone till past midnight, riding a prowl car, only she had no way of knowing where it would be prowling. Of course, she was already in bed when I got home, but I wanted to give her every chance.
Oh, I was sound asleep, darling. Did you have an interesting evening?
Not very. Not much action. What did you do?
Oh, nothing much. Looked at TV for a while. Tried to read Dr. Zhivago again, but I couldn't make anything more out of it the second time than I did the first. Come to bed, darling. I'm sleepy.
That's the way it was. Every night that I rode the prowl cars, I asked the sergeant to swing by El Dorado Drive, and it was always there. Mary's little Volkswagen parked in front of Jason's house. And every night when I got home, the same evasive answers. Why didn't I put my foot down? I was afraid, that's why. Afraid of losing Mary. I needed her. She was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. My ego needed her. She was a bright adornment, a mark of success. And if I lost her, I felt I, too, would be lost. Sergeant, I wonder if we could swing by El Dorado Drive tonight?
Again?
If you don't mind.
Well, I don't mind. It's in our area, but I don't get it. You, checking up on your friend?
No. My wife. That Volkswagen belongs to her.
Oh, I see.
3019.
Now, look, Mr. Brady, you say the word, we can make an awful lot of trouble for that guy.
It's awfully kind of you, Sergeant.
Oh, I'm serious.
I'm sure you are. Only it's not your problem. It's mine.
You stay out of it. Let us handle it.
No, thank you, Sergeant. That would be too easy. If anything's to be done about it, I'm going to have to do it myself. So here I sit, waiting to murder Jason. I phoned him a while ago and told him we had to straighten this thing out immediately. He said he'd be right over. I know him so well I could write the next scene before it happens. He'll walk in, suave, self-contained, every handsome inch a pony. If I get angry, if I threaten him, He'll make his grandstand play with that ridiculous pearl-handled automatic which he carries unloaded in his car. He's pulled it before. It's always worked before on irate husbands. He's boasted to me about it, how they chicken out in front of that empty gun. But this time it won't work. This irate husband isn't going to chicken out. He's going to shoot it out. This irate husband has a gun, too, and he's going to use it in self-defense. There he is now. Coming up the walk. Now he's at the door. Come on in, Jason. The door's unlocked.
In a moment, we continue with the second act of Suspense.
How long has it been since you've cleaned out your bookshelves? Maybe it's time you took a look at the books you own. While you're cleaning and looking, you can be performing a valuable service to your country. The United States wants books, lots of them, to send to interested students and readers abroad. Good books are needed to combat the flood of literature being circulated in free countries by the Russians and Chinese communists. Each year, the Russians alone publish and distribute well over 100 million volumes of all kinds. But each volume is a messenger of mischief, full of propaganda and lies. These books are sold at ridiculously low prices or given away free. You can help counteract communist propaganda with unneeded books now on your bookshelves. Most desirable are literary classics, new or old. Up-to-date American histories and geographies. All books should be in hard bindings and in good condition. Send them to Books from America, Box 1960, Washington 13, D.C.
And now, starring Miss Marie Winsor, Act 2 of Script by Mark Brady.
I am compelled to finish Mark's script. Since he saw fit to write it as an explanation and a justification for murder, I feel I must complete it as a vindication of myself and a requiem for Mark. Yes, Mark is dead. Jason shot him in self-defense. That's what the coroner's jury called it. Self-defense. And now I must defend myself from the things Mark thought about me. I was innocent. That night on the beach, I was innocent. Oh, Jason, isn't it beautiful?
Unto thy very feet, bright damosel, the westering moon this night has flung his carpet bright.
How lovely. Who wrote that?
I did, just now.
I know. Let's go swimming.
Why not?
I would if I brought a suit.
What difference does that make?
None, I suppose, really, only...
You worried about what people will say? Why, there isn't anybody within 5 miles of this cove. Go ahead.
All right. You can undress behind that rock.
Oh, not me. That water looks too cold.
Oh, come on, Jason.
I'll watch.
You will not?
I mean after you're in the water.
Well, all right. Now turn your back and close your eyes and don't open them until I tell you to. Jason was right. It was cold. But it was wonderful and strange and terribly exciting. And it was over all too soon.
Like Botticelli's Venus rising from the sea.
What did you say?
Like Botticelli's Venus rising from the sea.
You peep!
Man can be tempted only so far.
Oh, look, my skirt's all full of sand.
What did you expect?
You can turn around now.
Oh, a naiad glittering with moonlight. A sea nymph crowned with cockle shells and with a kirtle of kelp begirt. Oh, lovely Mary, make me immortal with a kiss.
Oh, come on, Jason.
And doth not the moon make lunatics of us all?
Stop it, Jason. I'm Mark's wife. And you're his best friend, remember?
Yes, I'm trying not to.
Well, save the soft sell for somebody else's wife. I'm not buying any. Now, come on, let's go home. That's all there was to it. Except I caught a cold. Mark never mentioned it again after that night. It was as though he didn't care. As though he wanted me to be with Jason. And he got so busy with his new show and riding the police cars at night. Well, what did he expect me to do, sit home and knit? Jason was more interesting than a night alone with the TV. And I wasn't taking anything away from Mark. I was innocent. I couldn't help the way Jason felt. I didn't know that it would get out of hand.
So, my beautiful goddess, that's how it is. I am hopelessly in love with you.
What are you going to do about it?
Have it out with Mark.
Oh, no, Jason, you can't do that.
Why not?
Mark's got a gun now.
Well, what of it?
He's been practicing at the police pistol range. He keeps boasting to me about how good he's getting. Almost as if he were threatening.
Oh, now, listen, my dear. We're all three of us civilized human beings, and I think Mark and I can solve this problem without bloodshed.
I'm afraid. I wouldn't want anything to happen to either of you.
Now, you listen to me.
Jason, look at the time. I've got to run.
Naturally.
I'll call you tomorrow, darling, when I find him in alone.
That'll be nice.
Now, honey, don't be that way. You know I've got to go. Jason.
What?
Look out there in the street.
What is it?
A police car driving by. Do you suppose it could...
I haven't the slightest idea.
Well, aren't you worried? If Mark found out...
I think it's time he did.
As always, I was in bed and pretending to be asleep when Mark came home. He didn't say anything, and I couldn't tell if he'd been in the police car that drove by Jason's house. But I didn't worry too much, because before I went to bed, I had taken all the bullets out of his gun.
In a moment, we continue with the third act of Suspense.
Be sociable, look smart, keep up to date with Pepsi, drink light, refreshing Pepsi, stay young and fair and debonair, be sociable, have a Pepsi.
When friends drop in, let your hospitality show you're sociable in the modern manner. Pepsi, you know, is the favorite of the smart and young at heart.
Be sociable, look smart, keep up to date with Pepsi, drink light, refreshing Pepsi, stay young and fair and debonair, be sociable, have a Pepsi.
Have you tried a Pepsi lately?
And now, starring Miss Marie Winsor, Act 3 of Script by Mark Brady.
Mark's script deserves a better end than Mary has given it. A truer end. An ending on a high note of tragedy. For tragic indeed it is. What Mary has carefully omitted in her attempt to lay the blame for Mark's murder on me is what happened the next morning when I was awakened by a frantic pounding on the door and opened it to admit a Mary on the edge of hysteria.
Oh, Jason. Mark knows all about it.
That's good. I'm glad.
And he's going to kill you.
Well, now, that does not sound like Mark.
You don't know. He's got that police gun. And he's acting like a crazy man. He threatened me with it. I ran out of the house. Oh, Jason, I'm so afraid.
Now, Mary, get hold of yourself.
Oh, but what are we going to do?
Well, first, we're going to have a cup of coffee. I can never think in the morning until I've had a cup.
That's him.
Murder by telephone? Well, that's a safe way. Hello? Oh, good morning, Mark. Yes. Yes? I see. Well, will you give me time to scrape my face and put on a pair of slacks? Say an hour? Okay. See you.
You're not going over there.
Why not?
He'll kill you.
He didn't sound as though he were contemplating murder. He was very calm. He said he wanted to talk to me.
He won't talk. He'll shoot first, and then it'll be too late to talk. Do you have a gun?
Yes, that little pearl-handled automatic.
Is it loaded?
Of course not.
Well, load it, darling. And promise me you'll use it if you have to.
Well, a woman as beautiful as Mary can be pretty persuasive. And a man would have to be made of more Spartan stuff than I to refuse her when she mixes warm tears of terror and concern with her other rich endowments. I loaded the gun. I went to Mark's apartment to find that Mary's concern was not overstated. As I walked in, he swung the police gun at me and pulled the trigger. I fired, and Mark dropped dead. I didn't know his gun was empty. Now I know he didn't know it was empty. And now I know who really murdered him. Beautiful, beautiful Mary. The kind of woman men will always kill for. It's almost dinner time. She isn't back yet from a luncheon date. With a girlfriend, she said. But I rather imagine it was with the young attorney who represented me at the inquest. Very bright chap with a mind quite different from Mark's or mine. I'm sure Mary's having fun picking it. But I'm not making any effort to confirm my suspicions. I'll know soon enough. Only this time I'll be sure Mary doesn't unload my gun. Well, here it is. Mark Brady's last script. And in many respects, his best. At least I hope they'll agree down at the studio.
Suspense, in which Marie Winsor starred in William N. Robeson's production of Script by Mark Brady, written by Celeste Bolus and Mr. Robeson. In a moment, the names of our supporting players and a word about next week's story of Suspense.
Hey, Dad, did you check your car filters today?
No, son, I didn't. Why?
Because it might pay you $1,000.
$1,000 for a car filter?
That's right, folks. You may have a filter under the hood of your car worth $1,000 and not even know it. A Fram filter worth 1,000 silver dollars. A regular filter change is important to today's cars. So important that Fram Corporation is paying $60,000 to get you to check your filters now. Last year, in preparation for Fram's silver anniversary, 10,000 secretly numbered Fram filter cartridges were distributed all over the United States and installed in cars during regular servicing. These filters are worth from $1 to $1,000. You may have one in your car right now and not even know it. Check your oil filter and air filter now. If there's a specially numbered Fram filter in your car, you will win up to 1,000 silver dollars, and your dealer will win the same amount. Get in on Fram's big silver treasure hunt. Check your car filters now.
Supporting Marie Winsor in Script by Mark Brady were Vic Perrin, Ben Wright, and Sam Pierce. Listen. Listen again next week, when we return with John McIntyre in John Barbie and Son. Another tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
The latest news follows, then Have Gun Will Travel on the CBS Radio Network.
And there you have it, a block from Sunday, March 22nd, 1959, concluding with an episode of Suspense here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll go back a little earlier in just a few moments for an episode of Escape entitled Pressure.
Home shelters are your best protection from radioactive fallout. A basement shelter will offer good protection, but an underground shelter 3 feet below ground will give almost complete protection. It's your responsibility to decide which is the safest area in your home. Then determine what needs to be done to give it the best possible protection. If you want to build a basement shelter with concrete or sandbagged walls and ceiling, plans are available. Remember, the moderate cost of constructing a shelter is low-cost insurance for you.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, we go back 71 years to March 22nd, 1953, for an episode of Escape, Pressure.
Tired of the everyday grind? Ever dream of a life of romantic adventure? Want to get away from it all? We offer you Escape.
Escape, designed to free you from the four walls of today for a half hour of high adventure.
You are 400 feet below the surface of the South Pacific, the heavy taste of chlorine gas souring your mouth, while somewhere up above you, searching through the night for you, is an enemy destroyer bent on sending the submarine and you to a murky death.
Listen now as Escape brings you Richard Chand Lee's exciting story, Pressure.
November
November 6, 1944. USS Amberfish, SS-593, departed Pearl Harbor for her assigned patrol area, the East China Sea. She carried 82 men and 24 torpedoes. She was commanded by Lieutenant Commander Daniel Hall. Her record was 0. This was her 4th war patrol. On the 32nd day of patrol at 1700 hours, Amberfish surfaced off the southern coast of Japan.
Fog. Wouldn't you know it, Mac? If the sea doesn't run heavy, we get fog. What can you find in this?
What's the old man got planned for tonight, Lieutenant?
Routine. Night surface routine. You think the last night on patrol we...
Hold it.
Hiya, boys.
Captain?
Evening, sir.
That's a lousy night. What speed we making, Frank?
About 5 knots, sir. 1 and 2 main engines on battery charge. Number 4 on propulsion.
Position?
About halfway through Asumi Strait. Course 045. Radar has the coast of Kyushu ranged at approximately 15 miles on the port beam, picking up the usual fishing boats. Aside from that?
Yeah, no. Nothing. 32 days and nothing. 4 patrols and nothing.
Sir, may I suggest something?
Yeah, sure, Mac. What?
Well, last night on patrol, sir, maybe we could go after one of those fishing boats, take some prisoners for intelligence and sink her by gunfire.
We got no orders for it.
I know that, sir, but...
It might do us all some good, Captain. End of the patrol, and it's better than nothing.
I'm sorry, boys. We got no orders. That's it.
Yes, sir, only we're all...
Only what?
Nothing, Captain. Nothing at all.
"32 days at sea, cramped living, and thoughts pass between men without being spoken. He knows what the torpedo, the executive officer, the whole crew think. Captain Hall, a book commander. Last night on patrol, and he still goes by the book. Gotta blame someone for an empty sea, for a tired ship, for bringing back a full load of torpedoes 4 times in a row. The captain stares at the fog and into his own thoughts. They need officers behind desks. That's where they'll put him after this patrol, a desk officer. Just a few more hours and he's headed for it.
Fog looks like it's thinning.
What? Oh, yeah. What's the time, Mac?
0100, sir.
Bridge. This is the conning tower. Radar contact.
This is Bridge. What's bearing?
033.
Captain?
Yeah.
It's just barely in range. It's funny looking. I don't think it's a fisherman this time.
This is Captain Radar. Be right there.
Scope's gone crazy. Can't be.
Keep the bridge, Frank.
Yes, sir.
Come on, Mac.
Yes, sir. This I gotta see.
Okay, Johnson, what have you got?
Yes, sir, Captain. Now, there it is, sir. See? It's a pip, then it goes. Nothing.
Scope's gone crazy.
Come left to course 033.
033, sir.
All stop.
All stop, sir.
All right, Mac, what do you hear on the bearing?
Nothing, sir. Not a thing.
Pip's gone. Nothing on the scope either.
Must be the radar, Captain. Must be with our luck.
Luck can change. Steady on course 033.
033.
All ahead full.
All ahead full, sir.
You never can tell. There have been false alarms before. The procedure is standard, by the book. Maybe one last chance to break the dull, leaden monotony that smothers the boat. In the forward battery, the crew's quarters, another rumor.
Hey, we picked up speed. Really moving.
Relax, Bergen. They think they got something on the radar again. Cards to the players. Come on, you guys. I got a wife to support.
5, 10, 15 minutes. All ahead full. The little flurry in the conning tower begins to settle.
And then...
Captain?
There it is, sir. We've got it now, sir. We've got it.
Yeah. Man tracking stations.
Just one pip, but it's a big one. I don't believe it.
The men run. There's excitement. No feeling of obedient drill. Even the engines sound different. In the green eye of the radar, the spot grows stronger and holds. A chance, one last glimmering chance for the captain to show he's not a book, to keep his job. Out there in the night, there's something big and fast. Three smaller pips now, Captain. One big ship and 3 escorts. Zigzagging.
Still a long way off. Bridge.
Yes, sir?
You see anything, Frank?
Not yet. Fog's gone, but it's black as pitch. Can we come up to him?
We'll come up to him. Just keep your eyes open. Maneuvering. Tell those motor mechs back there to give it everything. All ahead flank.
Maneuvering. Make all speed.
All ahead flank, sir.
What do you think we got, Captain?
We haven't got him yet.
1 ship, 3 escorts. Must be worth something to the chaps.
The moon's coming out. We're getting the moon.
That's something on sound, sir. Heavy screws bearing 041.
Frank, got him on sound now. Can you see?
I think so, Captain. Wait a minute. Yeah, I can just about see him. Bearing 040.
That's him. Oh, what do we got, Frank? What is he?
Well, wait a minute. Well, hold it. Aircraft carrier coming right down the groove.
Battle stations, torpedo, make ready all tubes and stand by.
All tubes ready, sir. Standing by.
Another zig, Captain. It's coming right at us.
What's the range now?
8,000 yards, sir. Closing fast.
Light screws on sound. Destroyer 6,000 yards. He's Echo Ranger, sir.
Okay, Harris. Bridge, what about those escorts?
Moving around, Captain. Looks like they know that stuff. Take it down any time.
Keep your eye on them, Frank. We're going to stay up. On the firing bearing now.
You mean on the surface for the whole attack?
They're looking for something submerged. Just keep those side bearings coming. We'll stay up as long as we can.
Okay, Captain. It's your party. Barry? Mark.
041.
Range. Mark.
7500 yards.
Set. He's right on, Captain.
How much time?
None, sir. Firing point in 15 seconds. All set. Ready to shoot.
Another destroyer, sir. Light screws, high speed. Turning this way.
On, a destroyer coming right at us.
Stand by forward. Bridge.
Destroyer.
I heard you. Shooting observation. Come on, give it to me.
Break off, Captain. Dive. He's turned on his lights.
Give me the carrier's bearing.
Bearing. Mark.
All right, Frank. Clear the bridge. Get down here.
049.
Set.
Fire. Dive. Full dive. Left full rudder. All ahead emergency. Take her down to 200 feet.
Left full rudder. All ahead emergency, sir.
Rig for depth charge. Rig for silent running.
Destroyer had us cold, Captain. 600 yards. Won't have any trouble finding us now.
Destroyer close aboard, 050.
Forget the destroyer. Sound got on that carrier. Listen for those torpedoes to hit.
That's him. Here he comes.
Mac, what's the time on the torpedo run?
70 seconds. Hit any second now.
Down 40 feet. Come on, get under, get under.
75 seconds.
It should be a hit.
80.
He's trying to ram. Hang on. Missed us. He missed.
Harris, did you hear a hit? Did you hear anything?
No, sir. I don't know. That destroyer, I didn't hear anything.
Missed. Yeah, we missed.
Down 70 feet.
All right, Sound, get on that destroyer. We're playing target now.
feet, Captain. Leveling off.
How far to the bottom?
Another 100. Not so hot.
Echo ranging, sir.
He hasn't got us yet. Just poking around.
He's slowing down. Turning toward us now. Screws speeding up. Shifting to short scale. He's got a contact. Here he comes. Coming on range. He's on us. He's dropped his charges.
3, 4.
All right, boys. Hang
5,
on.
6, 7.
Hang on now.
8.
Hang on.
9, 10.
Lights are out!
All right, emergency lights. Turn on that lantern. Can somebody help me with Harris?
Turn down the volume. Went right through my head. I can't hear.
Jensen, get Harris out of here. Get him to his bunk. Find the pharmacist mate.
Yes, sir.
Keep him quiet,
Yes,
Jensen.
Those charges were right on. Like he looked right down and saw us.
Yeah. Well, I guess we ran into an expert. Bergen, check all compartments, report all damage.
Yes, sir.
Mac, get somebody on sound.
I'll do it, sir.
We're in for it, huh, Captain?
Yeah. Just hope she stays together.
A beating. And for nothing. The captain tried. He had his chance. Checked through the boat and pray none of the damage is beyond small, quiet repairs. Small and particularly quiet.
After bilges flooding, hull dished in but holding.
It's the captain's command because they thought he knew his job. They let him go to sea 4 times with $7 million and the lives of 82 men.
Number 1 and 2 air banks emptied. Diving planes damaged. Losing depth
He
control.
listens to the damage. Nothing fatal yet. But it isn't over. There's an expert up there. And he's got all the time in the world. And he's going to take it.
We will return to Escape in just a moment. But first, tomorrow night on Lux Radio Theater, Paul Douglas recreates his original screen role in an adaptation of the film play 14 Hours. Terry Moore co-stars. Also tomorrow night, Agnes Moorehead stars in Suspense's thrilling production of Charles Dickens' eerie tale, The Signal Man. Remember, on Lux Radio Theater, Paul Douglas in 14 Hours. On Suspense, Agnes Moorehead in The Signal Man. Both tomorrow night at the Star's address. And now, back to Escape.
Captain waits. Waits and listens in silence. All operations are done by hand now. No pumps, no motors. All necessary movement by silent hands. No air conditioning, no fans, and the temperature climbs to 125 degrees. The boat slants at an odd angle. A bucket brigade bails endlessly from a flooding bilge, empties it forward, hoping to level the boat. A working party tries to repair the damaged diving planes.
Okay. Once more now. Slack off. Rest.
Oh, you get back. How's it coming, Mendoza?
I can't tell, sir. She's jammed good. Might be able to do something. Buster boy up there.
Well, do the best you can.
Sir, are you walking back to the conning tower?
Yeah. I'm on a goodwill tour.
Fine, sir, but Would you mind taking your shoes off? They make a terrible noise.
Yeah, sure, I'm sorry.
Silence. Silence means life. Captain Hall walks the ship silently. The men smile weakly as he passes, but underneath he knows what they think. How much longer, Captain? How much more do we have to take? Captain is the brains. He knows. He should know.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Captain, we're going to get out of this, ain't we?
Yeah, Jensen, we'll get out of it. Just sit tight.
Captain Hull makes the Goodwill tour. Then back to the conning tower to wait in the silent heat and sweat. The ship sweats, too. Thick, heavy humidity condensing on every possible surface. Like the steel was porous. Like the sea squeezing in. He's seen the men. He led them into this surface attack on a carrier. Be fast, get in close and make sure. But it didn't work. Now, work hard to breathe the same foul air they breathed 4, 6, 10 hours ago. He led them into this, and for nothing.
Turning this way. There he comes again. Not anymore. Not anymore.
Must be leaking oil. That's what gives him the spot.
The bottom. 300 feet. Not so bad. Could have been 4.
It's the oil. That's what he sees. That's all he needs.
We're not leaking oil.
He's got us perfect. He must see something.
That's enough. I said we're not leaking oil.
Captain?
What, Jensen?
Can we get off the bottom, sir?
Sure. When they get the diving planes in shape, and when our friend clears the area, we'll get up.
Yeah. Yeah, sure, we'll get up.
Jensen, you want something to do? Take over the sound watch.
Yes, sir. Hot. It's getting awful hot.
How many depth charges do you think that Jap's got?
Too many, sir. Just too many. Light screws. They're fading. He's going way off.
Gonna get a good run at it.
Maybe he thinks he scored a bullseye.
He's too good to make that kind of mistake.
Thanks. You're a big help.
Go on, kid yourself. It's too hot to argue.
Captain, maybe... Does he think he got us?
Jensen, can you still hear him?
Just barely, sir. Just barely. He's gone now, sir. I can't hear him.
Captain?
Yeah, he's smart. Lie out there and wait. See if we move. And that's the way we got to look at it. There's one thing he doesn't know. We got to wait anyway. All right, settle down. You're all right.
It's sinking, sir. Someone should open a window. It smells terrible in there.
Shut him up. Shut him up.
It's all right. I'm all right.
You better go to your bunk.
No, sir. I'm all right. I like it here. I wouldn't know what was going on in my bunk.
14 hours. 14 hours and the destroyer's still up there. Only he can't be heard now. But there's a sense, a feel to it, like an animal in the night that isn't seen. He's sunk subs before and knows how long a sub can hold out. The physical things, battery power, air, life is gauged on those.
But the men, the captain tells himself that he can hold out as long as necessary, but the men can take just so much. Which is worse, a depth charge attack or waiting for the next one.
Captain.
Yeah, Mendoza.
Diving plane working party just about completed repair.
Oh, what about it?
Waiting for an answer, sir. Chief of the party requests permission for one smack with a 10-pound sledge.
What? Is he crazy? You can hear that through the water for 10 miles.
Chief says one good smack would free the plane, sir.
Sound. Hear anything? Fish, sir. Just fish out there.
Captain, maybe he has gone.
If the plane's working, sir, we'd be our own boss again.
Frank?
You're the captain, sir. What's the difference?
Don't let him, Captain. He'll hear it. I know he'll hear it.
Sound, make a full sweep.
Nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
Okay, Mendoza, permission granted. One smack.
Thank you, sir. Diving plane party. Permission granted. One smack. Make it good. Acknowledged, sir. Stand by.
They can hear that all the way to Tokyo.
Echo ranging.
I told you!
Shut up!
He's coming again! Now he's gonna get us!
Shut him up! Stop him! Sit on him!
He's turning. Coming at us. He's dropping the way to starboard.
He didn't get the range. He's not sure.
He's turned away, sir. Going away at high speed.
He lost us, Captain. He lost us.
Mendoza, report from that damaged party.
Reporting now, sir. Our planes work, sir. It's a jury rig, but they work.
Captain, you think we could try to get out of here?
Let's do it, Captain. We got battery, but not much longer.
If we can get up there, sir, even if he's still there. We got torpedoes. It's better than being blown apart down here.
All right. Battle station surface, make ready all tubes and stand by. Surface, surface, surface!
30 feet. Leveling off.
Up periscope. Stand by, looking around. The sun's just setting. Full sweep. Surface, stand by, all tubes ready on all 4 engines.
Hatch is clear.
All right, open her up. Let's get some air.
Smell. Smell that. Oh, boy.
Open the main induction. Start the blowers.
Can't see anything. We're clear.
Nothing to port. Wait a minute.
What?
Look at the sea, Captain. Out there.
Oil.
Oil as far as you can see. Debris.
Take a big ship to put out that much junk, Frank.
You see it, Captain? That's why that baby gave us such a working over. You know what it means?
Yeah, I see it.
That's why the escort broke off attack. Probably went back to pick up survivors. Well, what do you know?
Conning tower, pass the word. We got the carrier. Right full rudder. Set a course for home.
The course is due east. To the captain, the air smells fresh and sweet. Home with 82 men. 18 torpedoes left out of 24. For a captain who sinks a carrier, doesn't have to worry about a desk job anymore. December 16, 1944. USS Amberfish, SS-593, completed her 4th war patrol. After experiencing severe depth charging from enemy forces, she surfaced and confirmed sinking of large aircraft carrier. Then set course for Pearl Harbor.
Under the direction of Anthony Ellis, Escape has brought you Pressure by Richard Chandlee, starring William Conrad as the captain, with Larry Thor as the narrator. Featured in the cast were Bob Sweeney, Hy Averback, Herb Ellis, Jerry Hausner, Frank Gerstle, Kurt Martell, and Eddie Firestone. Sound effects were by Gus Bays, Ralph Cummings, and Jack Sixsmith. The special music for Escape is composed and directed by Leith Stevens. Next week...
You are seated before the dials of your radio receiver, listening to a faint voice from the blackness beyond, while the one who speaks with words of friendship is debating the destruction of your world.
So listen next week when Escape brings you Michael Gray's exciting story, The Invasion. You want pleasure in the daytime? Here are 2 things to do about it. For one, join Arthur Godfrey Monday through Friday. For another, you're welcome to CBS Radio's House Party starring Art Linkletter. Yes, Arthur Godfrey Time and Art Linkletter's House Party every weekday on CBS Radio. This is Roy Rowan speaking. Remember, America's 45 million families listen most to the CBS Radio Network.
Boy, when it comes to a show like that, radio does it better than anyone else. 71 years ago, March 22nd, 1953, and William Conrad was so good, wasn't he? Escape, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Coming up next, Big Town.
Radio has always been a source of quick, accurate information during a disaster. When you hear the alert signal, tune to these Conrad frequencies, 640 and 1240 on your regular radio. During a national emergency, all power lines may be temporarily cut off. To make sure you receive the necessary survival information, keep a battery-operated radio in your family shelter. For accurate information and instructions during enemy attack, it's 640 and 1240 on your standard radio.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, Big Town, from 75 years ago, March 22nd, 1949, and the story of the deadly summons.
Extra Big Town, he know about it. Slayer gets deadly summons. Extra Big Town, extra.
Goodbye, Craig. I'll be back in an hour, and I don't want to find you in the...
Miss Kilburn of the Illustrated Press?
Yes, who's calling?
I want you and your editor, Steve Wilson, to witness a summons.
What kind of summons?
Thou hast all seasons for thine own, O death.
Yes, listen to this strange and exciting big town story of a nearly perfect crime, brought to you by Lever Brothers Company, makers of Life Boy Health Soap. Another headline story of fighting editor Steve Wilson of the Illustrated Press, whose newspaper creed stands for freedom and justice against the forces of intolerance and evil.
The power and the freedom of the press is a flaming sword, that it may be a faithful servant of all the people. Use it justly, hold it high, guard it well.
Now, Big Town and Steve Wilson's strange and gripping story of the deadly summons. So live that when thy summons comes. Such is the poetic admonition behind tonight's headline story of murder that began as young Whit Blake returned home from the funeral of his mother to confront his stepfather, Gregory Kane, with the terrible suspicions of murder.
So you're still here in my mother's house, are you, Kane?
How could I leave? Confined to this chair for the rest of my life.
I wonder if you really are.
Now, my boy. I know your mother's death has been a terrible shock. Come here, son.
Don't call me son. I'm no son of yours.
All right. But I am now your guardian. We are bound together by the terms of your mother's will. And we might as well make the best of it.
Couldn't you have waited a few days to go into that?
Life must go on. The play must go on. We are but actors.
Shut up, you hammy Hamlet.
I was your mother's leading man.
That was the one horrible mistake in her life. The mistake that cost her life.
Poetic fancy, my boy.
I am not your boy. No flesh of your blood, no part of your warped and twisted mind.
No, but a boy, nevertheless. A boy trying to live up to your namesakes, Whittier and Blake. Ha! A boy living in an unreal world of poetry, fancy, and music.
Yes. And suspicion. Suspicion.
Keep away from that electric organ.
Why? Are you afraid the sweet, gentle ghost of my mother will come back from her chamber in the silent halls of death?
Can't you speak without stealing, plagiarizing the words of your infernal poets?
They wrote to be quoted, not to yellow in uncut pages or gathered dust. Not to die as we must die.
Stop talking about death. Stop playing that organ or I'll smash it with this cane.
Oh, yes, that loaded cane. It's heavy enough to kill a man or a woman. Why do you keep it near you always when you say you can't get out of that chair? Even to go to pay your last respects to my mother, who gave you everything in life and half of all she had in death.
You're crazy. I was afraid the shock would be too much for your milk and water poetic mind. Now stop it or I'll have you put away.
Where, my dear stepfather?
Committed to an asylum. You're insane.
Perhaps. Who knows? Is it better to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or by opposing end them, to sleep, to die, perchance to dream? Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come.
Stop it, I tell you.
Tell me, as an actor, how did you play Hamlet, my dear stepfather? Feigning madness, or really mad?
Shut up. Get out of this house and stay out, or I'll have you committed tomorrow.
No, because I have a strange feeling there isn't going to be any tomorrow for one or perhaps both of us.
Don't you threaten me. Get out, or I'll ring for the servants and have you thrown out.
Go ahead and ring. There are no servants in the house.
What's that?
You heard me. I gave them the night off. I wanted to be alone with you, my dear stepfather.
Stop that playing. Get out of here, or I'll brain you with this cane.
Be careful. Don't get out of that chair, or you'll betray your guilt.
You know I can't get out of this chair. The doctors cleared me of any suspicion in your mother's death.
Oh, yes. But there are more things on earth than are dreamed of in doctor's testimony, to paraphrase Mr. Shakespeare, or Bacon, if you wish.
Stop that. Stop quoting. Stop playing, or so help me.
Yes, so help you. For now the stage is set. And we must have an audience, an impartial observer, to measure the madness that crouches in the shadows of this room like a hungry beast.
What do you think you're going to do?
I'm going to phone a newspaper woman I met at Mother's funeral to come and witness a deadly summons from the grave for one of us.
Hi, Steve. You got a minute?
Always for you, my lovely. Come in.
Thanks.
Where have you been?
I've been to a funeral and digging in our morgue file on the deceased.
Whose funeral, and what did you find?
The rather surprising death of one of our first ladies of the theater.
Oh, Elizabeth Blake. Oh, yes. Fell down a flight of stairs in her townhouse.
Uh-huh. And that strikes me as rather odd.
How so, Lorelei? Lots of people are killed by accidental falls.
But Elizabeth Blake was an actress, trained, if necessary, to fall down flights of stairs without hurting herself.
Well, acting and actuality aren't always the same, Lorelei. What else has aroused your repertorial suspicion?
What her son, Whittier Blake, said as he knelt beside his mother's grave.
What did he say?
He quoted from one of Shakespeare's plays, Hamlet, I think. Said, Murder will out, though it hath no tongue to speak.
Murder?
Yes.
But there was no suspicion of foul play, Lorelei. Not even a coroner's inquest.
I know, Steve, and the boy looked rather wild and haggard and acted a little crazy when I tried to question him
What did
later.
he say?
Well, he just flung quotations at me about retribution and a summons from the grave.
Well, what did you get out of the morgue file?
Plenty of stuff about his mother's stage career, but not much about her private life since her second marriage to an ex-actor named Gregory Kane.
Gregory Kane, was he at the funeral?
No, Steve, he's paralyzed. He stayed at the family townhouse. Young Blake hates him, and I think there's going to be more to this now that Kane will be his guardian.
Well, it might be worth looking into, following up.
Young Blake said I might have a chance soon.
Yeah, just a minute. Steve Wilson, Illustrated Press.
Good evening, Mr. Wilson. I'm told by your operator that a certain young lady, a reporter by the name of Lorelei Kilburn, is at present in your office.
Yes, she is. Who's calling, please?
Simply say, we met at my mother's grave.
Oh. Just a moment.
Who is it, Steve?
It's Whittier's Blake.
Oh?
You may have a chance to follow up that murder lead sooner than you thought.
Golly, yes.
Here, take the phone.
Thanks. Hello?
Are you still curious about my strange behavior at my mother's funeral, Miss Kilburn?
More than just curious, Mr. Blake.
Good. Could you come to my mother's house immediately, tonight?
Yes, I could be there in 10 minutes. Why?
I want you and your editor, Steve Wilson, to be witnesses.
Witnesses to what?
A summons, Miss Kilburn.
What kind of summons?
Leaves have their time to fall, and flowers to wither at the north wind's breath, and stars to set. But thou hast all seasons for thine own, O death.
Steve, he hung up.
What did you get?
Well, an invitation in poetic double talk to witness a summons to be served by death.
Good grief. That kind of summons calls for 2 witnesses. Get your so-called hat, Lorelei. Let's go.
Thus, Steve and Lorelei are drawn into a strange and deadly saga of hatred and revenge. And for the exciting developments, we'll return to Big Town in a moment. Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
And the cleaner you get your skin, the surer you are of being fresh and attractive. So remember, Lifebuoy, with its purifying ingredient, gets skin cleaner. Stops BO as no other leading soap can. Here's what the doctors proved in 820 scientific tests.
People took daily baths with different soaps. Doctors found that Lifebuoy does more than just remove the grime and perspiration you can see. Lifebuoy's purifying ingredient makes it more effective than any other leading soap against the invisible dirt that brings on BO.
Lifebuoy's milder, too. Safe, even for baby's tender skin.
And you'll like the way Lifebuoy, made with costly coconut oil, bursts into quick white lather, even in hard water.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner, keeps you fresh and attractive, protects you as no other leading soap can. Bathe with Lifebuoy every day. Get the big new bath size. Buy Lifebuoy right away. Now back to Big Town and tonight's dramatic story of the deadly summons. Accepting a strange invitation to witness a summons of death, Steve and Lorelei arrive at the townhouse of a well-known actress who has died after a mysterious fall. And the door is opened by her son, an intense young man whose mind is tormented by the conviction that his mother was murdered.
Good evening, Miss Kilburn. I see you've brought your friend.
Yes, Mr. Blake. My boss, Steve Wilson, editor of the press.
Come in, Mr. Wilson. I've read of you in connection with the smashing of some rackets.
Yes, I've been able to help the police break up a few.
Good. You'll feel quite at home in this house of hate. And the hounds of jealousy strain at the leash.
Mr. Blake, could you give us the facts in plain English?
Yes, where is your stepfather?
Upstairs, in my mother's music room. Chained in his chair by his own folly. Dreaming of tomorrow when he'll have me put away in a place of the living dead. As surely as my mother died upon those stairs, and awaits retribution to strike her slayer down.
Now, wait a minute, Blake. Don't let your poetic fancy run away with your common sense. How could your stepfather be responsible for your mother's fall down those stairs if he's paralyzed and can't move out of his chair?
I do not know, but I know he did, and I shall prove it.
Surely you're not suggesting the doctors are wrong, that he isn't paralyzed.
No. He cannot walk. He cannot move out of that chair without help. Nor can he move the chair. But by some devil's device, he made my mother die.
Why should he want your mother to die?
Jealousy of her fame. Envy of her fortune. Bitterness over his failure as an actor and a man.
Why didn't you mention these things to the police before your mother's funeral?
There is no proof of actual guilt. They would have doubted my sanity as you are doubting it. I would have been put away, as I will be committed tomorrow, if I cannot serve the summons of death tonight.
Now, hold on a minute, Blake. Whether you're right or wrong, sane or temporarily unbalanced by the shock of your mother's death, you can't take the law into your own hands.
And we haven't come here to act as witnesses to a murder.
It will not be murder, Miss Gilbert. The sword of vengeance is not in my hands. It is in his. Go see Gregory Kane. Question him. I will join you in a few minutes.
Well, where are you going?
To prepare a surprise, as young Hamlet did for his stepfather's undoing. To set the stage, and let the play be the thing wherein I'll catch the conscience of this king of evil. You'll find him in the music room at the head of the stairs.
Steve, what sort of ghastly joke is this?
It may not be a joke at all, Lorelei. I think we'd better go upstairs and talk to Gregory Kane. Come on.
Oh, it's fantastic. Even these stairs are like a stage setting.
Yes, except for the fact that an actress actually died on them only 3 days ago.
Well, it could have been accidental. They're polished marble. Elizabeth Blake could have plunged head first. The medical examiner's report said her head was crushed and her neck broken.
Yes, it could have been quite a fall from here. And this top step is worn, uneven, but...
But I'm beginning not to believe it.
Well, be careful of the power of suggestion, Lorelei. Let's try to keep an open mind. That must be the door to the music room over there.
Her back would have been to that doorway as she started down the stairs, Steve.
Yes, but I think we can discount the conventional notion that Kane fooled the doctors, was actually able to walk, followed her, and pushed her down the stairs. But he might have rolled his wheelchair.
Well, according to the police report, he wasn't in his wheelchair, Steve. And even young Blake said he couldn't get in and out of his armchair without help.
All right, then there's no use speculating on that angle at the moment. Let's go in and talk to Kane before young Blake starts something we can't stop. Yes? Come in. After you, Lorelei.
Good evening, Mr. Kane. I'm Lorelei Kilburn, a reporter on the Illustrated Press.
Yes, I know. And your companion is Steve Wilson. Please come in and close the door. Thanks, but how did you know my name and the fact that we were coming here? This extension phone beside my chair keeps me well acquainted with the unbalanced activities of my unloving stepson. And I suppose you know he suspects you of murdering his mother. Oh, yes. And I would strongly advise you not to echo that suspicion in the columns of your newspaper, or I shall sue you for irresponsible slander, as great as the irresponsibility of poor Whittier.
Do you believe he's insane?
My dear young woman, consider the facts and judge for yourself. What is your version of the facts, Mr. Kane? My dear wife, Elizabeth, Whittier's mother, suffered fainting spells. 3 nights ago, she left this room, walked out that door to the head of the stairs. I saw her sway and fall to her death. She left the door open? Yes, and I could not move from this chair to help her. The servants were off for the evening, as they are tonight. I phoned her doctor. He came and pronounced her dead, and her death an accident.
And the medical examiner agreed?
Yes, and examined me and confirmed my doctor's statement that I could not have moved from this chair to help or to harm her. I see. Good. So nothing more need be said, and I bid you good night.
But, Mr. Kane, you know your stepson hates you. He believes that in some way you killed his mother and knows that you plan to have him committed to an asylum tomorrow.
Yes, Miss Gilbourne.
Aren't you afraid of staying here alone in this house with him tonight?
No. I'm quite safe. I ask no help, no sympathy, no quarter. And I will give none. You seem to be a very bitter man, Miss Kane.
Yes, Mr. Wilson, I am a bitter and a vengeful man.
Would you mind telling me what put an end to your theatrical career? Put you in that chair? Helpless?
I am not helpless. Any fool can walk. An ape can walk. It is the cold steel of the mind sharpened to razor's edge by adversity.
that is the measure of a man's power over other men and women.
So you want power?
I have power and wealth. And from this chair I can pull the strings that makes fools dance like puppets.
No! No more. No more.
Good heavens, what's that?
That is Whittier, the young Hamlet, playing games.
Whose voice was that, Mr. Kane?
The voice of my late dear wife, Elizabeth, Whittier's mother.
But how?
Undoubtedly a recording of excerpts from some of her repertoire plays. She did several on the radio.
Are you quite sure?
Yes. Or would your newsman's fancy have it her ghost out of her grave and then...
Oh, infirm of purpose.
Wait a minute, Kane.
Give me the daggers. The sleeping and the dead are but as pictures. 'Tis the eye of childhood that fears a painted devil.
What's so funny?
The stupidity of that idiotic boy. Wasting your valuable time. Bringing you here to watch me turn pale at the sound of my dead wife's voice. Perhaps even arise from my chair in horror and betray the fact that I can walk. Confess my crime. Don't you agree, Wilson? What do you think of this?
Since you ask me, and while we're quoting, I could say, methinks you doth protest too much, Miss Kane.
Surely you don't think
now the very witching time of night.
Wait a minute, Kane.
When churchyards yawn, and hell itself breathes out contagion to this world. Now could I drink hot blood and do such business as the bitter day would quake to look on. Soft now, my mother.
The fool. He even distorts Hamlet to suit his own purpose.
What purpose, Mr. Kane?
To prove I knocked his mother down those stairs out there in the hall.
Did you say knock down the stairs?
Well, shove, knock. What's the difference?
It might make a great deal of difference, but that's beside the point right now.
What's the point if you're staying here any longer?
To keep that boy from doing something he'll regret for the rest of his life.
Murder me?
Perhaps.
Nonsense.
Why is it nonsense? The two of you are alone in this house.
So what?
The servants are away for the night. You know the boy hates you. Believes you murdered his mother, and by your own admission you consider him unbalanced enough to be committed to an asylum.
And I shall. Tomorrow. And I will probably subpoena you and Miss Kilburn to testify as to his crazy actions tonight.
If you live that long.
I have nothing to fear from that poetic young fool. I don't propose to be frightened to death by his spooky recitation of a lot of ancient literary hogwash.
I was thinking of more modern, practical means of getting even with you, Mr. Kane.
Such as?
A club, a knife, or a gun.
Let him try.
Now hear this. Now hear
Listen to
this.
him now. He has a tape recorder in
Now
his
hear
room,
this.
probably attached to this radio.
Yes. And now hear
In
this.
the Navy?
Yes, volunteered.
Hear
It's a pity they didn't make a man of him.
Hear this. Hear this.
Craig, listen to me.
What the...
Listen to me, Craig. I found out the truth.
The truth about what, my dear?
How you were really injured and confined to that chair.
How?
Not defending me against slander, but in a drunken brawl over another woman, in which you tried to kill another man with a heavy cane you always carry.
It's a lie, Elizabeth. It's a lie.
No, it's the truth, and I'm going to divorce you, Greg. I'll make a settlement that will keep you comfortably, but I want you to get out of this house.
Listen, Wilson, Miss Kilburn, this whole thing is a fake. There never was such a quarrel. It never happened.
Steve, stop him. He's smashing the radio.
It doesn't matter, Lorelei. Let him smash.
I'll smash his... I'll smash him. I'll show him.
Yes, Kane. A remarkable demonstration of blind, senseless fury. And it has shown us a great deal.
Such as what, Wilson?
That recording of your quarrel with your wife provides an excellent motive for murder.
It never happened. It was fake.
Was your voice faked, impersonated?
No, taken from some scene I played.
What play?
What about that cane Elizabeth Blake mentioned? The one you used so effectively to smash that radio.
Let me have a look at that cane.
Keep away from me. Keep away, or I'll show you what I can do with it.
There's a great deal, I imagine. It looks as if the head were loaded with lead.
It is. More ways than one. Keep away from me.
Yes, keep away from me, Mr. Wilson, Miss Kilburn.
He's really dangerous.
What, no quotations now, you crazy young fool?
No. I think they've served their purpose. And this tape recording of your last quarrel with my mother will provide the motive for the murder. Will you take it to the police, Mr. Wilson? Yes, gladly.
Wait. And that herewith. Give it to me. Hand it here.
What's to make me give it to you?
Keep out of reach of that loaded cane, Blake.
Don't move, any of you. I told you this cane is loaded in more ways than one. It's a one-shot gun. And the first to move gets that one shot.
See, the tip of that cane is the hollow muzzle of a gun.
Yes. So I see.
So don't move, Wilson. And you wait. Toss that spool of tape recording on my lap. Toss it gently. Don't show it, or I'll use the one shot in this cane on you.
Thus, Steve and Lorelei and young Blake are faced with a strange dilemma. And for the surprising and exciting payoff, we'll return to Big Town in just a moment. Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
And the cleaner you get your skin, the surer you are of being fresh and attractive. So remember, Lifebuoy, with its purifying ingredient, gets skin cleaner, stops BO as no other leading soap can. Here's what the doctors proved in 820 scientific tests.
People took daily baths with different soaps. Doctors found that Lifebuoy does more than just remove the grime and perspiration you can see. Lifebuoy's purifying ingredient makes it more effective than any other leading soap against the invisible dirt that brings on BO.
Lifebuoy's milder, too. Safe, even for baby's tender skin.
And you'll like the way Lifebuoy, made with costly coconut oil, bursts into quick white lather, even in hard water.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner.
Lifebuoy gets skin cleaner, keeps you fresh and attractive, protects you as no other leading soap can. Bathe with Lifebuoy every day. Get the big new bath size. Buy Lifebuoy right away. Now back to Big Town and to the music room of the townhouse of a murdered actress for the payoff in Steve Wilson's strange story of the deadly summons.
Don't move, Miss Kilburn, Wilson. I've only one shot in this cane gun, but I promise it to the first one who moves toward my chair. Now toss that spool of tape recording on my lap, Wit.
You better give it to him, Blake. It's obvious he's quite desperate. Can't risk the police having proof of his motive for murdering your mother.
Even with a motive, you have no proof I murdered Elizabeth.
Stop calling my mother by that name. She's dead. You murdered her. You're trying to have me put away so you can have her money, this house, the power over other people you're always talking about.
Yes. Now give me that tape recording.
Give it to him, Blake.
All right. But I'm not finished. Here.
I think you are, Wit. Now back up. Step back while I destroy this fake evidence.
Why bother to destroy it, if it's fake?
I'll not have the finger of suspicion turned on me by that moronic young upstart.
You've created more suspicion by your actions, Mr. Kane.
I've done nothing but protect myself. And when I've destroyed this team...
Wait, my dear stepfather. Will all great Neptune's ocean wash this blood clean from my hand?
Stop that footing, you crazy fool!
You better listen, Kane. I think your stepson is trying to tell you it's no use tearing up that tape recording.
Why not?
Because that isn't the tape recording I played through your radio a few minutes ago.
So it's no use destroying it, or using that cane gun on any of us.
Why not? It's killed once.
Killed once? How did it kill once? You didn't fire it at Elizabeth Blake?
You know I didn't. There was no bullet wound.
But you did use it. The cane. Your tongue slipped, and you just admitted that much.
You'll never prove it.
Perhaps not. But shall I tell you how you did it with that cane?
Prove it.
Circumstantial evidence will prove it to the satisfaction of any judge and jury.
How? I wasn't within 15 feet of her when she fell.
Oh, but look at that radio you smashed with that murderous cane.
What about it?
The built-in aerial was torn out. It was used for some other purpose before you smashed the radio just now.
You lie.
Well, look at the loop at the end of the wire. It will fit that cane in your hand. The cane you hurled through that open door. Struck Elizabeth Blake and knocked her down the stairs to her death.
You lie.
No, you murdered Elizabeth Blake with that cane. You pulled it back to your chair with that aerial wire. Put the wire back in the radio and called the doctor.
So that's how he did it. I'll kill him. I'll kill him.
Keep away from him, Blake. That's all. You meddling fool. Give me that deadly weapon, Kane. Let go of it. Did he hit you, Blake?
No, he just missed me, thanks to your grabbing his arm. You want me to help hold him?
No. I don't think that will be necessary under the circumstances. Just take this cane while I see that he hasn't another gun on him or in that chair.
Don't bother, Wilson. I underestimated you, or I would have had another gun ready.
No, Kane. You overestimated your own ability to commit the perfect crime. Lorelei.
Yes, Steve. You want me to phone Inspector Callahan of Homicide?
Yes, then fletch on city desk and byline yourself a story of a deadly summons. Signed, sealed, and delivered to one Gregory Kane. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight you've heard the dramatization of an unusual crime from the front pages of the Big Town Illustrated Press. It was but one of the hundreds of so-called perfect crimes which failed. Not so much because of the brilliance of the police or of private investigators, but because all criminals are their own worst enemies and usually betray themselves.
And that's especially true next week, when you'll hear the headline story of the Chill of Death.
Yes, Lorelei, but right now I see that Mickey, one of my cub reporters, is here with something on his mind.
Pardon me, Mr. Wilson.
Yes, Mickey.
Mr. Wilson, have you actually seen that report about Lifebuoy Health Soap?
Indeed I have, Mickey. It's a remarkable document. It explains why the doctors know that a daily Lifebuoy bath does get skin cleaner, does keep you fresh and attractive, protects you when other soaps fail. And, Mickey...
Yes, Mr. Wilson?
Here's the proof of the pudding. Lifebuoy is used in the homes of 40 million Americans.
In tonight's dramatization, all names, times, and places are fictional. Big Town features Edward Pawley as Steve Wilson, Fran Collin as Lorelei Kilburn, and is written and produced by Jerry McGill. Friends, you can help make this Easter season a time of hope for crippled children by buying Easter seals. For Easter seals provide the special services these children need to learn to walk again, talk again, lead useful, active lives. Be generous when you buy your Easter seals this year.
Lever Brothers Company has amazing news. New 1950 Rinso with sodium. It's here a year ahead of time. New 1950 Rinso has 3 times the whiter washing action of any other soap. The sensational new washing action of 1950 Rinso gets white clothes whiter than new, washable colors brighter than new, and keeps them whiter, brighter than any other soap. Rinso is so safe for clothes, so kind to hands. Get new 1950 Rinso at your dealers now.
Be sure and be with us again next Tuesday at the same time when Lever Brothers Company will again present Big Town. This is your narrator, Dwight Weiss, bidding you good night.
Edward Pawley in Big Town from 75 years ago, March 22nd, 1949, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I didn't talk about tomorrow's show, and we will have crime and westerns. We'll have an episode of Frontier Gentleman from 1958, Luke Slaughter of Tombstone from Sunday in 1958, the 23rd of March, an episode of Dragnet from 1954, an episode of Nick Carter, Private Master Detective from 1947, and Lum and Abner worried about going to jail. That'll all be coming up on our next Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. I've been so busy worrying about today's show, I didn't talk about tomorrow's. But right now, an episode of the demented Quiet, Please.
When the family is packing up to go on a vacation or maybe on an all-day trip to the beach, everyone's pretty busy. Dad is sure the car is in good condition, Mom sees to it that food and extra clothing is packed, and of course we can always count on the kids to bring special equipment, everything from a tennis racket to a portable radio. The same thing is true in preparing for possible enemy attack. Everyone should have a job to do and know when to do it. Be sure that everyone in your family is assigned a job to do in case of enemy attack.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, it's time for Willis Cooper's Quiet, Please, from 76 years ago, March 22nd, 1948, A Night to Forget.
Quiet, please.
Quiet, please. Broadcasting System presents Quiet Please, which is written and directed by Willis Cooper and which features Ernest Chappell. Quiet Please for tonight is called A Night to Forget. Excuse me. It's dark in here. Can't find the doggone lights. Where's the lights?
There aren't any lights, John H.
Who's that?
It's me.
What'd you say about the lights?
I said there aren't any lights.
There's got to be.
Not in here, John H.
Well, isn't this Studio 15?
You kidding? This is the morgue.
That was last night. I think it was a dream. I remember I went to bed early because I had to get up so early this morning to get that stuff to Ted before he takes off for California. I drank a bottle of ginger ale with some lemon juice. I read Variety for about 15 minutes. Then I went to sleep. Must have been no later than 10:30. Then this happened. You know how it is sometimes when you get in a dream and you don't think you're dreaming, and when you wake up you wonder whether it happened or not? Well, I was walking down the hall to Studio 15 for this broadcast, and when I went in, it was all dark. And I stumbled around trying to find the lights, and I hit my shin on something. And then this voice in the dark talked to me.
You kidding? This is the morgue.
I'll be darned if I can figure it out. I think it was a dream, all right. But my shin hurts where I barked it. And it's all black and blue. I woke up and I lay there quite a while. You know, half dopey, trying to figure it out. I turned the lights on finally, and I was right there in my room with my shin hurting me. I know I hadn't been out of bed because I was all wound up in the covers. And I couldn't get back to sleep again. You know how it is? You have a nightmare and you're afraid to go back to sleep because you might have another one, a worse one. Well, listen. I was just lying there in my own room with the lights on, looking at the ceiling and trying to think. And it began to get dark. No, the lights didn't go out. I could see the lights, but it was dark. Everything just sort of faded, like in a movie, you know? And pretty soon it was black dark. I tried to get up, but I couldn't. And I just lay there, flat on my back, in the dark and the silence, and I was scared.
Doesn't he look nice?
Beautiful.
He's got that blue and white shirt on that I gave him.
I wish I could have got that tie from him in time. I always liked that tie.
It is pretty. He certainly looks nice.
Certainly does.
Look, will you two please get out of my room?
What you say, John H.?
I said get out of my room.
Why, this isn't your room, John H.
Now, look.
Of course it isn't.
Now, look, if I have to get up and chase you out of here...
Right, John H. You know you can't get up.
Of course you can't.
You're dead, John H.
And then it got, well, undark. And pretty soon it was just the same as it was before I fell asleep. If I did fall asleep. Look, I'm a hard-headed guy, even if I do work on supernatural radio shows. You don't want to believe this stuff. You go nutty. Only Well, sometimes I always sleep in pajamas. Both halves. I put on my pajamas when I went to bed last night. Red and white striped textron. Yeah. Well, when I woke up, or when it got undark again, I was wearing a blue and white shirt I never saw in my life. And I was wearing a hand-painted Countess Mara necktie that I never saw before either. So this is too good. Somebody's playing funny jokes on me. I love practical jokers. In a pig's eye, I do. Radio's full of practical jokers. All sorts of bum gags, like Don Amici used to do when he was a radio actor. You used to be reading a commercial, giving it this and that. Don would come up behind you and start to take your coat off. Well, you know you can't stop. You're on the air and you have to make with this thing. So you'd wiggle around. The first thing you'd have your coat. Then he'd unbutton your suspender buttons. Take off your necktie. You can't do a thing but keep that old smile in your voice and go about locked in goodness and please, Mrs. Housewife, buy the large economy size and holding onto your pants with one hand, and it's all very, very funny. Especially if the sponsor's sitting there in the booth looking at you. So I say to myself, some practical joker. Only I add a couple of adjectives to that. Only thing is, how did he get the lights to go out? I lie there a while and I think and I try to figure it out. And I shut my eyes, I guess. Anyway, when I opened them, it was dark again. I am walking around in the dark, and the ground is springy underfoot. There's a cool wind blowing. What are those things? Those white things. Why, they look like gravestones. They are gravestones.
Will you stand to one side, please, Johnny?
Excuse me.
I gotta get to work, see? This is an extra special rush job. I gotta get it done right away. Did you say something, John H.?
I was just going to ask you, what is this place?
My goodness, John H., this is a cemetery.
Cemetery?
Certainly. Would you move your foot a little?
What am I doing in a cemetery?
What do people usually do in a cemetery, John H.?
What are you doing?
Me? I'm just chiseling your name on this gravestone.
And there it was, laid out in chalk on the gravestone. John H. And I shut my eyes. When I opened them again, I was lying on my bed. Well, you know what people mean when they say their mind reels. Oh, boy, I do. I rubbed my eyes, and I felt like sand on my fingers. It wasn't sand, though. It was marble dust. And brother, I was shivering. This kind of nightmare is a little too real. And the telephone rang. And so I got up to answer it. Mind you, I was awake. Well, I know I was. Well, the lights were on. I got up and I picked up the receiver. I said, hello? Hello?
Sure is too bad, isn't it? Sure is. I never heard of such a thing.
Hello? Hello?
Poor old John H.
This is John H. Hello?
Poor old Al, I'd say. It's tougher on him than on John H. Al? Al who? Al April. You know, the sound effects man. Oh, I didn't know his name.
Who is this? Hello?
Yes, he feels pretty awful about it. Well, I should think he was.
Who is...
killing a man. He didn't mean to, you dope. I know it, but just the same, poor old John H. He didn't know it was loaded. I mean, loaded with bullets. Matter of fact, there was just the one bullet. One was enough. Right on the air, too. Yeah. I bet that was the first time a radio audience ever heard a real killing.
Hello. I want to know who this is.
What about his commercials? You know? John H., you mean? Yeah. Well, I'm auditioning for the big one tomorrow. You are? Yeah, they called me this morning. Gee, I wonder if I could get in on that. Well, I don't know. I'm pretty sure they're going to pick me. I think I'll try anyway. Sure you won't mind? No, oh no. Well, I'll see you. Poor old John H. Yeah, too bad, wasn't it? So long.
Who is that? Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir?
You got me in on a crossed wire or something.
Oh, no, sir.
Well, when you rang me, I picked up the phone
Well,
and...
I'm sorry, sir, but I didn't ring you.
What?
Well, I haven't had a call for you all evening.
Now, that wasn't a nightmare. Or a dream. That happened. Even if the operator did say she didn't ring me. Whoever it was playing a joke on me, they fixed it with the operator so she'd say that. Didn't they? All right, that's the way I figured it, too. So, this was about 11:30. At 12:30, the manager of the hotel called me on the phone.
I hate to wake you up at this hour of the night, John H., but I thought maybe Radio Registry or somebody might have called you and couldn't get you, see? And I know how important it is for people on the radio to get their calls. And
What are you talking about?
why, I just thought you might want to call Registry and see if they've been trying to get you, see?
I don't get it.
Oh, excuse me. See, something happened to our telephones about 10 o'clock, and nobody's been able to get a call in or out of the hotel since then, and
Well, maybe my practical jokers might have got to the manager, too. But this morning when I came downstairs, I found he wasn't kidding. The phones had been out for 2 hours and a half. Something blew up in the switchboard or something. Well, that's carrying a practical joke an awful long ways, isn't it? That's one night I won't forget, believe me. Yeah, but I gotta stop this kind of talk. And this kind of thinking. I will forget it. Heck, it was probably a lot of nightmares. I'm gonna stop drinking ginger ale before I go to bed. Well, anyway, I saw Ted and gave him the stuff, and he got away to California okay. I sort of had a hunch that if this was a gag, Ted might have had a hand in it. So I made a few cracks, but he didn't give it a tumble, like he would if he'd had anything to do with it. He can go just so far with a gag, and then he can't keep his face straight. But he didn't fall for any of my hints at all. So, man, I gotta forget it. But just for laughs, when I see that Al April, I'm gonna make him show me that sound effects pistol. Believe me. So then I went and did my commercial. The guy from the agency was there. He had the renewal of my contract with him, so... Well, anyway, after I signed it and he signed it, I'm not going to hold auditions for my job tomorrow. So, like they say on the radio, here we are at the bottom of the well. This is no dream. This is the hallway that goes down to Studio 15. And there's Miss Rose. Hello, Miss Rose. Through the door. There's the drinking fountain on the left. And the lights are turned down. It's bright. I'm early today. I'm going to be here early so I can talk to Al April and look at that sound effects gun. I'm not dreaming now. Cut it. Studio 15. In the door. In the control room. Nobody there. Hang up the coat. Go in the studio. Yeah, the light switch is right where it always was. And the lights go on. Yeah, studio 15, all right. Nobody here yet.
You're late, John H.
either. Look at the clock. Oh. Who are you?
I'm Mr. D. I got your note and I came right over.
Note? What note?
The note you wrote me to meet you here tonight.
Oh, I didn't write any note.
Why, you certainly did. I've got it right here in my briefcase. Well, I got it right here.
I don't know what you're talking about, mister.
Just a second. Oh, my goodness, I don't seem to have it after all. But I'm here, so that's all that matters, isn't it?
What'd you say your name is?
D.
Well, what'd you want? I'm on the air in just a little while.
Oh, it won't take long, John H. I've got the catalog right here. And you can pick one out in no time. About how high do you want to go?
What'd you say your name is again?
D. Here's the catalog.
How do you spell it?
Spell what?
Your name.
Oh, D-E-A-T-H. Shall we sit down here at the table where I can spread out the catalog?
Listen, Mr. Deeth, or whatever your name is, this gag has gone just about far enough.
Why, what gag, Johnny?
Your gag, my friend's gag. I'm tired of it. Suppose you scram.
What are you talking about, John H? I don't indulge in gags. Not in my business.
And what is your business, Mr. Death, pronounced Deeth?
I don't know whether you're trying some of your radio humor on me, John H. You dragged me all the way down from the Bronx to let you pick out a coffin.
A coffin?
You think I'm in the grocery business?
Listen,
Now, this one here you wouldn't want. Man as well known and prosperous as you, John H., you wouldn't want to be found dead in this one. No, sir, you wouldn't be found dead in it. Eh?
Look, Buster, I don't want a coffin.
Then why did you sign an order for one and pay a substantial down payment?
I didn't.
All right. Well, let's get this settled. This model, 23, code name Tired. This will set you back $441, 23 cents. Tax included, of course.
I don't want it.
Something a little more expensive, perhaps, eh? Here's a dandy. Code name Sleepy. Solid rosewood. Well, practically solid. Hand-polished silver alloy handles, nylon lining in your choice of color.
I don't want it.
Okay. Well, what do you know about this for a coincidence?
Huh?
By George, I didn't know this model was in the book. Look at that.
What?
Look at the code name.
Code name? John H.
Man, is that a job? You know, I haven't seen this model yet. Look how it's streamlined. Plastics, too, the latest thing. Real built-in factory-engineered dependability. Finest model we've ever made. And look, it's fireproof. And that coincidence about the code name, the John H. You know what, John H? You'll be the very first user of this latest model. Stand up.
What for?
My goodness, this is a made-to-measure job, John H. Nothing too good for you famous radio people. Stand right up there. That's it. Now, let me see. Dimension A. My, you have broad shoulders, don't you? Now, let me put this down. There.
Listen, mister, please,
I'm going to get it absolutely right, John H. I tell you, I can hardly wait to see you in it. Stand still.
Listen, this has gone far enough.
Just hold the tape measure. Now, let me see. 3 inches above your head. Now, 6 feet 4 inches. I didn't realize you were that tall, John H. How much do you weigh?
Well, let's see. I've lost 17 pounds since I went on the diet.
My. You must tell me about that. If we have time. 17 pounds, and that makes it...
191.
Oh, my gracious, I can save you a little money then. The oversized models carry a 4% discount, you see. The little ones are harder to make. You're very fortunate, John H. Now,
Huh?
There's a plaque on the lid. See here?
Yeah?
Yeah. Well, we can engrave that with any lodge emblem or, an odd fellow or a moose or anything like that. You are a big fellow, and I suppose you could say in slang that you're a big moose. Get it?
No. The only thing I belong to is the lambs.
Lambs. Oh, my, John H., I really don't think we could do that. You see, we carry all the well-known emblems in stock, but the lambs, we'd have to have that engraved, and I'm terribly afraid there won't be time.
Huh?
No, you said it was a rush job, remember? Matter of fact, it's tonight, isn't it?
What's tonight?
When you're to be killed. If I remember correctly, you said in your note with the order that a sound effects pistol was...
Mr. Deeth, did I write that?
Well, I couldn't swear to it in court, of course, John H., but somebody wrote it, and your name was signed to it.
Well, look. I'll write my name. Is that the signature?
Absolutely identical, John H. Yes, sir, absolutely identical. I remember the curlicues on the H.
I don't understand.
It's perfectly simple. You're going to die, and you need a respectable, refined, late-model coffin, that's all.
Are you sure I'm going to die?
Cheer up, John H. Of course you're going to.
You know, I heard that before.
Yeah, it's all over town.
Tonight.
That's what you said.
By a shot from a sound effects pistol.
I saw it in your own handwriting.
How did I know, Mr. D?
I'm sure I don't know, Johnny.
Isn't there any way out of it?
Don't ask me. I'm just a salesman, and you're just a customer. Not that I don't enjoy listening to you on the radio, John H. I really do. And I must say that you're going to be a great loss to the art, science, profession. What do you call it?
It's a living.
Living. And now it's a dying. Mustn't mind my little jokes, John H. I'm an inveterate joker.
Is this one of your jokes?
Oh, no, John H. This is strictly business. Now, did you want to give me a check for the remainder now?
Well,
I think possibly that'd be wisest, considering that, you know how long it takes to get money out of an estate.
Now, look, what if I don't die?
Oh, I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, what if I don't?
Well, you will eventually, John H., and at least we'd have time to engrave anything you wanted on the plaque.
Mm-hmm.
So, excuse me. Is this the gentleman that's going to shoot you?
Huh? Oh. Hello, Al.
Hi, John H. Well, you get killed again tonight.
I do, huh?
Yeah. Says here you do.
How do I get killed this time, Al?
Get shot.
I see. Excuse me, Mr. D.
Certainly. Is he the one?
He's the sound man. Al April.
Huh? Mm-hmm. Very interesting.
Say, Al.
Yeah?
You ever have any accidents with those guns?
No. How could you?
I don't know.
What kind of accident?
Really shooting somebody.
With these things? No. Look, in the first place, they're loaded with blanks. In the second place, there ain't any place for the bullet to come out, if there was one. And in the third place, I always shoot him at the floor. So, how could I shoot somebody?
I was just wondering.
You know, I always wondered how you do sound effects on the air. This is most interesting.
This is Mr. Deeth, Al.
How are you, Mr. Deeth? Your face looks familiar. You in radio?
Oh, my, no. I'm a salesman.
Oh.
Can I look at the guns, Al?
Sure.
Which one you going to use on the show?
This one. Say, what's the matter with you, John H.?
I'm a little nervous, I guess, Al.
Thought you was on the wagon.
Well, I am. I'm just a little nervous, I guess. Let's see the bullets.
They're not bullets. Blanks.
Well, the blanks.
Here.
How do you load it?
Oh, give it to me. There.
Can I shoot it?
Sure. What do you want to shoot it for?
Well, I got to make sure of something.
John H. is sure he's going to be shot tonight.
Yeah, that's right, Al. I just want to test out these shells.
Well, that's silly because... go ahead. But don't point it at me.
Oh, I thought you said you couldn't shoot anybody with it.
Well, you know, the wadding. It stings, kind of.
You'd use these same shells on the show, huh?
Sure. What you scared of?
I got a hunch, Al.
Well, those are the same shells I'll use on the show. Go ahead and shoot. I gotta get set up.
Okay, Al. You asked for it.
Hey, don't point that gun at me. Doggone it. Hey, I told you about that wadding. It stings. Doggone it.
I'm sorry, Al.
You shot me.
There, Mr. Date.
Why, John H., you killed him.
That's right. So I'm not going to die after all. Take your coffins and get out of here.
Why, don't be silly, John H. Of course you're going to die.
I am not.
Why, certainly you are. You murdered poor Al in cold blood, and they'll send you to the electric chair.
Yeah? How are they going to do that? They won't have any witnesses except you.
Why, John H., how foolish. What about the people listening to you on the radio? Goodness, John H., don't you know you're on the air?
The title of the Quiet Please story you have listened to is A Night to Forget. Willis Cooper writes and directs Quiet Please, and John H., the man who spoke to you, was Ernest Chappell.
And James Monks played Mr. Deef. Al April was played by Murray Forbes. And the sound effects on the show were played by Al April. Others in the cast were Jack Tyler, Kermit Murdoch, Lon Clark, and Polly Cole. Original music for Quiet Please, as usual, is played by Albert Berman. Now for a word about next week's Quiet Please, here's our writer-director, Willis Cooper.
Tonight's show is the 40th in the series of Quiet Please. Next week, for the 41st, I think I'll call the show after the name of our series. Let's call it Quiet Please.
And so, until next week at the same time, and Quiet Please, I am quietly yours, Ernest Chappell.
Quiet Please comes to you from New York. This is the Mutual Broadcasting System.
March 22nd, 1948, 76 years ago, Quiet Please, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Hey, thank you for making us a part of your day here, and we will be back with you tomorrow with Westerns, as in Frontier Gentleman and Luke Slaughter of Tombstone, and a crime drama with Dragnet and Nick Carter, and, of course, an episode of Lum and Abner, which also involves a crime. Thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you for our Saturday Classic Radio Theater mañana. Have a great Friday and have a great weekend, won't you?